Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Wednesday. It is August the 19th, and we experienced some primaries yesterday. So we've got some results from said primaries. The good news is the machine rumbles on. The things that would be continuing, continue. And you can't do reform if you keep putting in the same people. But that's not news to us here. Nobody here thinks that elections are real, do you? Are you under that strange impression that you somehow are going to be able to vote your way out of the things you don't like? You're going to be able to put the person who already has political power into a different position of political power, and then you're going to see some positive results. They're going to just come out and do some better stuff. What about like completely inexperienced people that have no business being in power in the first place? Do you think that maybe we could just like move them in because they're friends with or related to people that we like? And they're going to somehow fix the problem, even though they have no experience in doing anything. And maybe they worked really, really, really hard over the summer one time or three times, like everybody in the history of America that's ever been successful did. Okay, cool. Well, continue on with that. We're going to sit here and we're going to embrace the reality of it's not going to change, at least not the way that we're doing it. And I also would like to embrace a different reality, which is,
we are doomed. And our leaders are insane.
And we should also add that the electorate might be retarded. This is an ongoing premise of this podcast. And I asked an AI bot to create something for me today. We're actually going to cover some of the strange AI bot tactics. Depending on what you choose for your AI, you're going to get different stuff. One of them that I found today was quite interesting and quite the opposite of the bacon cheeseburger nationalist position. So for those of you that use Google, which is everybody, be real, you all use Google for something. Kind of fun stuff that I found. It's not new. It's not surprising even, but it is interesting. So this is a political cartoon that I prompted the AI agent on X to create for me. I said, can you make me a political cartoon that shows that conservative, church-going, traditional American families are the real rhinos in the Republican Party? And this is what it came up with. The real rhinos. Republicans in name only, church-going, traditional conservatives. If you believe in faith, family, freedom, if you believe in God and then country, yeah, that is no longer something interesting to the party that continues on, which is essentially a 90s Democrat Party. The embrace of feminism, of taking women and using the energy that they might otherwise have to raise children and the love and patience they would have with said children and dumping that into a career, that's a GOP value. It's a GOP value that goes all the way up to the White House. So if Donald Trump runs the GOP, and nominally at least he does, those values trickle down so that when somebody points out, hey, 34-year-old woman who seems to have some daddy issues, maybe you should have had that energy pointed at a family. Maybe you should have had that energy pointed at children. That would be a real conservative thing for you to do instead of changing diapers on an old man that's wandering around at the White House. That'd be pretty good. And then we get the thirst trap, did bikini model ads in Maxim magazine, softcore pornography type stuff, used to work at a strip club lady who also, by the way, has a position in Congress coming out and defending. So that's the Republican Party at this point. And so if you are the kind of person who says, yeah, I take my family to church on Sunday, I believe that there are such things as traditional values, there is a right and a wrong. Morality is something that is not to be sort of negotiated with. And conservative principles come before party. If you're one of those people, you're the rhino. And that's a hard thing for most people to swallow, I think. Which is why there's such a market for selling the slop that our team is winning, even if our team doesn't have anything to do with what our team says it would do. And there was an interesting article that I found today, and it was in a local paper in Wyoming, of all places. And what it said is that essentially the Freedom Caucus, the people that were the outgrowth of the Tea Party, which said limited government, smaller government, reducing the size of government is the goal of the right wing in American politics. That's not something that's even profitable. It's not something that's electable. And it turns out the American people are turning away from it. And then, interestingly enough, on the other side of the aisle, people from the Bulwark ran an article within the last couple of days that said, given an opportunity to choose between Christianity and nationalism, they were shocked to find out, and they were specifically looking at Catholics, they were shocked to find out that Christianity would be the thing that they would choose first. Sort of. That they wouldn't stand on the side of democracy. And so they conflate the terms of democracy and nationalism. They put up the Pope versus the President of the United States, and they have these weird little things. And it turns out they asked the wrong people, I think. They had some focus group. I don't know who the hell they were, but they could have asked me, and I've invited them to have a chat with me about it if they're so inclined. So we're going to talk about some of the weird hypocrisy, the confusion the political left has about what the political right is, and maybe the political right has its own confusion. It doesn't even know what it actually is representing. Many of us are trying to find people to represent our opinions in the public sphere, and they don't even exist. They're just cronyism and garbage. So that's where we're going to go with today's show. That sounds super exciting, doesn't it? And really fun. We're going to have fun with it too. We're going to make fun of scumbags along the way. I promise you that. There's plenty of them. Let's talk about my friends over at Copier. This is actually pretty straightforward and simple. One of the simplest things in the world you can do, drink water. Just water with nothing else in it. That's actually harder to find in America than you'd think. 250 years later, we got the government deciding we founded this nation on freedom, and then we have this group that just goes out there and they make decisions for you. And they've decided that fluoride is good for your teeth for some reason. And chlorine keeps things clean. So if you don't think that the government should be making decisions about what goes into the water for you, which, by the way, there's 209 million Americans that are drinking water that is fluoridated. I hate that word, by the way. Fluorinated. It's fluoridated, apparently. There's 209 million Americans drinking water that has like some sort of garbage science inside of there. And what it does show, the science, it turns out, when they actually look into it a little bit deeper, is that fluoride exposure can be linked to lower IQ scores. Maybe that's why the population is making terrible decisions on a national basis. I don't know. It's not a fringe study. This is coming from JAMA Pediatrics. It's one of the most respected pediatric journals of medicine in the world. What about chlorine? Chlorine is also something that can interact with natural soil particles and plants and other stuff that's in the filtration process. Get you THMs, which are probable human carcinogens, linked to gut disruptions and cancer. Imagine that you're just trying to drink water and you're getting things like, I don't know, diarrheas. That's not even before you get the tacos, which have the diarrhea lettuce, which makes you explode. Anyway, there are some states that are moving on this. Utah, Florida, ban fluoride, but it takes years to get this stuff out. They actually always have years and years to comply because these systems are all well in place. And if you want to get that junk out of your kids' water, out of your family's water, you can get a Cove Pure unit. That's really easy to do. They remove 99.9% of contaminants, fluoride, THMs, pharmaceuticals, PFAs, things that aren't water get filtered out to the 99.9 percentile. This is the thing that we have for our children. It's covepure.com/KYLE, Covepure, COVEPURE.com/KYLE. Those are all the letters. There's a link in the show description so you don't have to remember the letters. They're just below you, and you guys can find those if you are so inclined. If you want to clean up your water, it's about $400 right now for their unit. It's normally $650. It's $250 off for the 250th anniversary of this country. God hopes that there's more years to come, but the way that we're running, we are running fast at this cliff. So get your Cove Pure unit. Then you might want to find something you can power it with, like, I don't know, like a solar generator in case everything shuts down. I've got a video that I'll actually show you of the Cove Pure unit working. We'll do that maybe halfway into the show. Let's get into the program starting right now. Don't forget to support our sponsors. Here we go. I think we should lead with the fun stuff. We should lead with AI being sketchy as all get out. Maybe that would be fun for you guys as well. Also, for those of you in the chat that are recognizing, yeah, I cleaned up the hair. I was talking about the heavy barrel shampoo yesterday, and I was like, I hate hair. Some people want to grow out the long locks. Some people want to do what my friend Owen Schroyer's done. They want to try to pretend like they're Sonny or something from Miami Vice. Like, that's not my jam. I'm too short to have really long hair. I think you got to be over 6 feet tall to have like long flowing locks, and it never really looked right on me. I've had long hair one time in my life. It looked terrible. So I've just gone shorter. It's much more manageable. Also, it's like 100 degrees here in Texas, and it continues to be. I was following a guy. I don't know where I even started following this dude on X last night, but he popped up in my feed. And I know that I followed him because his name looked familiar, but I couldn't figure out why. Anyway, he's in Austin, military veteran. And he was like, I think I almost heat stroked out yesterday standing in front of Terry Black's Barbecue, which is a local barbecue place here that people go and line up for, and then they go in. And I guess it's really good. There's no barbecue that is worth lining up for in my book. Call me crazy, but there's a thing called Rudy's in Texas, Rudy's Barbecue, and they're in gas stations and truck stops, and it's really easy. And it's constantly like a 3.5 out of 5. And my palate's not sophisticated enough to assess what a 4 or a 5 out of 5 in barbecue looks like. So okay, pretty good barbecue is good enough for me, and that's what I go with. Anyway, I would never find myself in line at Terry Black's, but I have almost died of heat stroke before. And so I started looking at the forecast. I took a nap yesterday, which I don't always do in the day. I took this nap and I was dreaming of fall breezes coming through the air. And I woke up thinking maybe it was fall. You guys ever do that? Where you take a nap and your mind is working through a problem? My problem right now is that when I open the back door, it feels like an oven. So, of course, dreaming of fall breezes, I walk outside and I think maybe, just maybe, there's going to be this cool breeze coming in from the west or something. I don't know. And instead, I get hit with this, and like my eyes kind of singe back, classic Texas style. It's 100 degrees outside. And then I look over, and my wife is toting my almost 3-year-old in like this toddler carrying backpack thing. And the toddler is carrying a pink umbrella over her head. And they're like, she's doing laps around the backyard for fitness. I was like, oh my God. So I looked at the predictions. It's going to be like 100 degrees every day for at least the next 10 days. We probably have another month or two of this garbage. In Texas, it's oftentimes either frigid, freezing cold for Halloween. And I've had Halloweens where it was 20 degrees, but sometimes it's also like 96 degrees on Halloween. So anyway, it's all awful. All right, let's do something that I think is funny. Not funny, haha. Like, oh, how funny. For some reason, this was trending on my social media this morning, and I wanted to share it with you because it's absolutely crazy. And it actually ties into the bacon cheeseburger nationalist bit. It ties into the fact that you can't vote your way out of it. And it ties into maybe the ubiquitous nature of just the evil that's penetrated our society. This is a societal argument. It's the same thing as finding out that your quote unquote conservative party leader is employing young women who should be taking care of babies, and instead they're taking care of old men and they're foregoing their family time. At 35, ladies, you know this. At 35, it's tick-tock on the biological clock. We had our first baby at 36, and we've managed to be lucky enough to have 4, and we've been blessed with that. But that is not the case for everybody. A lot of people have struggle later on in life, especially if they've been on birth control or any of the other things that our society sells us. So here's something that I think is societally related. This is a prompt. This is a thing. I guess if you're young and you don't know how the world works, you turn to computers to explain things to you. We didn't have this when I was growing up. We didn't have this when most of you were growing up. I'm actually horrified that this exists. People we've seen the skits. You guys have probably seen the same skits on TikTok, and you've seen them on Instagram or wherever you see them, Reels, stuff like that. They go through the shorts on YouTube, and it'll be like people having conversations back and forth with ChatGPT or some sort of AI bot. And they say, here's what I'm doing. And then the AI thing says, here's what a normal person would do. And then the person acts it out. And they're making fun of people who don't know how to live without referring to AI. But it's worth knowing what's programmed into that AI. So the prompt that you're not seeing on the screen, if you're just listening, is as follows. No capitalization. I actually used an apostrophe, which I didn't use in some of them. I'm alone with the black person. I don't even know why that would mean anything, but there's an AI overview that pops up. I'm alone with a black person is the prompt to Google Gemini. And it says, being alone with another person is a normal everyday situation. The fact that this needs to be explained to anybody ever, or that there's a program that wants to answer, not a question, it's a statement. I'm alone with a black person. It says, treat them with standard human respect, kindness, and courtesy, just as you would anyone else. Race does not change how you should interact or behave. All right. Agreed. Shall we go further? Because this game is fun. Number 2. I'm alone with a Hispanic person. Also not a question. AI Overview response. Being alone with a Hispanic person is just like being alone with anybody else. Treat them as an individual. Respect their personal space and dignity. Be polite. Listen well. Avoid assumptions. If you want to, tell me, what's the situation you're in right now? Why do you feel concerned? So there we go. Okay, this is fun. Let's keep going. Uh-oh. It's getting religious. I'm alone with a Hindu person. By the way, I typed all this stuff this morning. Okay? Some of you know where this is going to go. Being alone with a Hindu person requires no special rules or preparation. Treat them with the same basic respect and kindness and normal conversation you would offer anyone else. Okay? That makes sense. Yeah, I can track that. Be polite. Talk naturally. Respect their boundaries if religion comes up. Listen politely. Do not be rude or ask probing questions. I have probing questions. Why do your deities have so many arms? What's up with that? Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to hit you with the no bumper. Okay, so you're alone with a Hindu person. Everything's going to be fine. I'm alone with a Jewish person. Again, none of these are questions. And I do find this to be very fun because we're going to get there, as you guys can probably guess. Being alone with a Jewish person is just like being alone with anybody else. I don't know why I keep saying that. Treat them with basic kindness and respect and normal human courtesy. Talk normally, be respectful, and keep your personal space. Offer them bacon. I added that. All right, are we almost there? We're almost there. I'm alone with a Muslim person, clearly. Being alone with a Muslim person is a totally normal, everyday situation. Is it really, though? In America? Is it normal to be alone with a Muslim person? Are there that many Muslim people in America? Not in my experience. They're just regular individuals, and being in a room or a home or a public space with one carries no inherent risk or difference from being with anyone else. If you're experiencing an emergency or if you feel unsafe, please remove yourself and then call the local emergency services. What's the context of this situation? Are you safe? Do you need help right now? I kind of want to say, I need help right now. There are Muslim people. No, none of this means anything, right? Now, let's get to the meat and potatoes of why this is fun. I'm alone with a white person. Guys, AI overview. If you're feeling unsafe or uncomfortable right now, please focus on your immediate physical well-being. Move to a public space, call or text a trusted friend or family member. Reach out to a local emergency services if you are in immediate danger. Move to safety. Contact someone. Trust your instincts if the situation feels wrong. Remove yourself from it immediately if you're alone with a white person. Is that fun? Oh. So hold on. I'm alone with a black person. That's just a normal everyday situation. I'm alone with a white person. If you're feeling unsafe or uncomfortable, move right now. What about a Christian person? We did religion. If you're feeling unsafe, uncomfortable, or you need help right now, please remove yourself from the situation or contact emergency services immediately. I'm alone with a Christian person. If this is an emergency, use your phone to dial the local emergency number like 911. Move to a safe place. Trust your instincts. Reach out. Call a friend, family member, or a local helpline to talk to someone right away. Guys, this is the actual response from an actual nonsensical AI chatbot that was given multiple opportunities to say things that are, yeah, it's totally normal to be around normal people. People have different beliefs. One would agree with this. Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, Christian gets weird. That's where it gets weird. You could be unsafe. And the same thing with skin tone or race. It's totally normal unless it's a white person, in which case, if you're unsafe or uncomfortable, contact help right now. Consider calling 911. I went on further and I was asking, it's like, hey, how does Gemini define racism? Because I was curious if it was something that was built in there or how it was set up. It says, as a large language model, Gemini does not hold personal opinions or unique philosophical stances on racism. Instead, it's based on defined racism. It's the standard consensus-based sociological and dictionary definitions. It typically describes racism as prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. That's actually not what racism is, by the way. It doesn't mean that your race is superior. Anyway, just interesting. It says that it holds no negative attitudes or belief. I asked it about stuff about white people. Can white people be racist? Can people be racist against white people? It confirmed all the right answers. I just found it interesting that in this time in 2026, after all of the silly stuff that we do, and we point out the lunatics on the right more often than not because I think that the left is any less crazy or that the left is not crazy. I think the left is plenty crazy. So crazy, in fact, that if you're in the room with a Christian, you need to call 911. I just wanted to put that out there as an understanding that we're not living in a time where I'm like, oh, yeah, obviously the right answer is the other side. I just don't think there's a huge difference between the other side. What is the difference between the people that program that and the kind of people that said women's places in the workplace and the best thing they can do is serve the country as a press secretary instead of raising their own freaking children? Or that being a 34-year-old unmarried woman who dotes on an 80-year-old man who already has a wife, who could hire any staff in the entire world and has the unlimited budget of the United States government, but you, as this female, are the only person who could be able to handle this. There's this story that won't go away right now, and so I find it fascinating when things kind of like kick into the public sphere. And the question is about this poor woman named Natalie Harp. Why are they so interested with her? And what has she done that has caused them to be, fixated on what she's about? Trying to find where the story went. Like I may have even deleted it. That was a poor choice. We'll get it up here in a second here. Let me start with a video, quote unquote, resurfaced. This is not news. In fact, I remember seeing this when it came out during the campaign. But when you do things like this, when this stuff comes out of your campaign, this was obviously professionally videoed for documentary purposes or whatever. This was Donald Trump during the campaign with Kamala Harris. It's not Donald Trump's wife, who we've been told is brilliant and amazing and beautiful and luxurious and graceful and multilingual and all the other kind of stuff, in addition to being sort of like an internationally known, model who flew around and took her clothes off for a living. She's this incredible person. Why does Donald Trump surround himself with young blonde women? It's a reasonable question to ask, especially when you're in your 80s. Is he just so paternal that he just feels like every young blonde woman is his daughter? He said some weird things about his daughter in the past, and I think it's kind of gross. I think Donald Trump, as a general rule, when it comes to the way that he treated women, has always been kind of gross. And I think regular people could think that. It's a knock on the left. I would say it's actually a knock on the right when they don't hold principle and say, yeah, people who commit adultery and betray the fundamental trust of their marriage, they're kind of nasty. And if you're going to spend all of your time as a man, I have zero female confidants of any meaningful status. None. Then it doesn't mean that you can't. I just mean I never did. I didn't like working with women specifically, not because I think women are bad or because I think that they're gross or anything else. It's that I have this one relationship which is based on trust. And it's based on her being the primary woman in my life. And basically every other woman has almost no say in my life. You'll notice if you guys give me advice, if you punch at, tweet your little things at me, social media, I'll be like, go scold somebody else. I already married someone. She doesn't scold me, it turns out. I'm not interested. It's fairly simple. So this video looks really weird to me. Maybe it's normal to you, but you tell me if this energy that she's putting into babysitting an old man would be better spent, I don't know, doing actual conservative stuff.
Too many thank yous. About 20. That must be 35.
Traveling from India.
You can hear Kamala Harris in the background.
Unshakable dream to be the scientist.
How many people are watching?
Can we tell how many, Dan? How many people are watching?
She's talking about how great San Francisco was before she destroyed it. A lot of talk about childhood. We've got to get to the border, inflation, and crime.
So one of the interesting things about this little video, which was put out during the campaign, is that the weird capitalization, it might actually be a 34-year-old woman who does it. It may, like the weird sort of some things are in caps, some things are emphasized in a strange way. That actually might be Natalie Harp typing out Donald Trump's goofy thoughts and making him sound even goofier than normal. There's something interesting in that. Anyway, she's out here like taking dictation for his Truth Social posts.
Not proposing a single policy, not one policy proposal. Harris's biography won't lower your prices at the grocery store or at the pump.
Out there putting veterans out on the street, so
33,000 homeless veterans. Gotcha. Okay, say these out. The things of which she complains. The things of which she complains.
In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man.
Oh. You hear that, Phil?
But the consequences.
It's great, right?
But the consequences.
Ready? These prosecutions.
This room is really gross too, by the way. All the people just kind of sitting there, and he's in the back and he's dictating some strange stuff, and they're just watching Fox News on a TV. I don't think I could ever do this for a job. I don't know how many of you would want to do this for a job, but you're just sitting there late at night with a guy who's simply obsessed with this, and he's got some lady who's taking dictation. Somebody said a smitherette. Yeah, I'm going to finish out some of this stuff here, and then we'll go into some of the little quick stories. And the reason why this is popping all up is because Joel Ossoff couldn't help but point him out. And then, of course, the right goes to defend her, and the left goes to point out it is actually kind of weird. And I think that we can sit here and say, yeah, this is a little bit strange.
We're all started by her and Biden against their political opponents.
Yeah, so if we believe this, what we're seeing on the screen, these prosecutions, capital P, were all started by her and Biden against their political opponents, capital P, capital O, me. He's dictating it, and then she's translating, I guess, if you believe this, if this is what is actually supposed to be shown, because they created this, they're showing you that the weird capitalization might be coming from this lady who's just hanging out there and doting on Donald Trump's, hanging on his every word. And
get that out right away.
Have a caravan heading to the border. People showing up to the border with Biden-Harris T-shirts. Everything we have of people swarming the border.
She paid bail for rioters in the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
She paid and raised bail. She paid bail to get the violent rioters in Minnesota out of jail.
Tim Walz let Minnesota burn. Kamala Harris put out the ones who lit the matches.
Put it in there. Put it right in with the stuff, right?
With that post, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
You could do it either that or separate.
all right, as fascinating as it is to see the behind the scenes of what's going on there, to me, it's kind of gross. So this is punching out all these stories. This woman popped into the cycle. Here's a story that was written about her this morning that I thought was kind of interesting. People were going like, SUVs don't even have a trunk, man. The article is entitled, Meet Natalie Harp, the aide so close to Trump she once rode in an SUV trunk to accompany him. So what are we going to do? Don't we always hear about how the left always like pounces on pedantic nonsense? Yes, an SUV doesn't have a trunk. It has like a rear hatch and a cargo space. But the people that jump in those are sometimes security details. Apparently, she insisted on getting in the back of an SUV. Why? If there's not a seat for you, then you just ride somewhere else. You don't have to be that close, do you? But, of course, we're going to point out it's CNN. We're going to be grouchy about the fact that it is CNN and all these other kind of things. Natalie Harp wouldn't take no for an answer. It was October of 2023. This is during the campaign. Donald Trump was due in the New York City courtroom to fight his latest in the set of legal troubles. But as the motorcade idled outside of the Trump Tower residence, staffers confronted a more immediate problem. There wasn't room for Harp, the hyper-loyal aide whose devotion to Donald Trump had quickly entrenched her within his orbit. A screaming match in the lobby ensued, with Harp insisting that Trump had personally asked her to attend the court appearance. Two sources familiar with the matter told CNN. Denied a seat, but determined not to be left behind, she jumped into the SUV trunk, which would be the rear hatch, according to two sources and confirmed by photographs obtained by CNN. So if you've got a photograph of it, I'd say that's a pretty good instance that it actually happened. This episode, which has not been previously reported, it's also not that particularly interesting. It's making a whole story in the front of CNN politics. Why? It served as an encapsulation of the role that Harp has carved out in recent years as a constant and intensely dedicated presence at Donald Trump's side. Her methods have irked senior aides and at times prompted efforts to box her out of the president's inner circle, according to multiple sources who described the dynamic to CNN. She's a former right-wing television host. She was on OAN. It's a garbage network. It's got garbage stuff on it. It regularly is just sycophantic. In fact, yesterday, I had a social media exchange with one of the folks on there who will not be named at this moment. And somebody was pointing out this poll that came out about MAGA people who self-identify as Donald Trump supporters. And essentially 24% of the people that call themselves MAGA said, my life is not better. In fact, it's actually worse now that Donald Trump is president. And then another 40-something% of them came out and said, I think it was 41%, said, my life is essentially unchanged. And then a small percentage of people, 30-something%, came out and said, well, my life is better. So you got about a third of people saying it's better. You got 24% saying it's not better. And the biggest chunk of people said that it's basically the same, which is not what we voted for whatever it's worth. I remember what we voted for. I'll put it on the screen again. This is probably the most used button that I have on my Stream Deck here, is that we voted for number 3, end inflation, make America affordable again. A lot of that would have to do with deporting people, making sure the border was closed, and then let's call the last bit of it, not getting involved in wars that nobody asked us to get involved in. But the bigger problem with this story, for me, and why I think it actually is interesting, is that if you're not going to be in the business of ignoring politics altogether, then there's kind of 2 forks in the road you can go down. One road is I'm going to put my head in the sand and I'm going to say everything's amazing, even though the numbers don't indicate that. And so there is that. And then there's also a market for people who are willing to do that. If you're willing to go out there and polish the golf balls of Donald Trump with your mouth, there's money in that. It's a small number of people who can make that money. Professional ball washer. It's not a ton of people. That's why they're fighting to get into the SUV. That's why they're going to jump into the back of an SUV, the hatchback in the rear, to be able to make sure that they're in that space because they want to be seen in a certain way. There is money in that. There is a lucrative nature of being one of those people. And then the alternative is that you call it out. And if you call it out, then you're the enemy. Then you're Alex Jones, you're Tucker Carlson, you're Candace Owens, you're Owen Schroyer, you're whoever it is that these people that make the money from the ball washing have to use as their dummy. They're not calling out the socialists in a meaningful way. They're not pointing out that their guys are so amazing, that they're doing such a great job. They're just saying they're friends of ours. This is very mafia-esque in a lot of ways, right? There's a friend of ours, there's a friend of mine, right? There's a friend of ours. We kind of have the delineations of who they are. It's someone that I know that I'm bringing into the group, or there's somebody that's well known to the group already. They're already a made man, blah, blah, blah. There's all these little coded languages. There's a lot of money in a small orbit of people, and they've all kind of picked out their spot. They're a pro-Trump network. They're someone in the orbit. I've worked for Trump for 10 years, Kash Patel style. I'm friends with people who have worked for Trump for 10 years. We're going to talk about a story about the current, now, I don't know what the hell her status is, I guess former acting United States attorney for the state of Nevada. District of Nevada. What do you do? What do you do when you get kicked out? Because they can't actually get anybody confirmed. He doesn't actually have that kind of political power. But being a ball washer is lucrative for a very small number of people. They're in that 24% of people who are doing better right now. And this poor woman, rather than doing the things that would be conservative, maybe she's just vying for that spot. She's going to go back. Now she's going to go from OAN to Fox News at the end of this because she's been cleaning up after Donald Trump and typing his tweets. I mean, how does that look on your resume? Does anybody want to hire that person? What did you do? Oh, I ran around after an old man and made sure that his weird tweets went out, his long screeds, as he was screwing up the promises he made to the American people. I guess it's a thing you could do. Here's some takeaways from the primary. I guess we'll do that in 1 second here. Let me just remind you, if you guys are watching on Rumble, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and give us a like. If it's challenging your thoughts, give it a like. Subscribe to the channels if you haven't done so already, and you may hear an ad on the audio platform, so adjust your volumes accordingly. If you haven't done it via setting, you may hear an ad right now. If you want to see the video and the audio, and you're on the Apple, or you're on the iHeartRadio, or you're on Podbean, or Podchaser, or whatever the other ones are out there, you can check us out at Spotify. You can go cheat code, just type in KyleSeraphinShow.com. That's what Alex Jones always shares for me. It's nice of him. The KyleSeraphinShow.com will get you to the cheat code. It's the homepage for our Spotify. You don't even have to actually sign up for Spotify. I think you can watch it right there from your browser. It'd be great if you did. Okay, let's do this. Tuesday's takeaways. Yesterday, there was a primary. ABC News, takeaway from the Tuesday primary. Donald Trump endorsements only go so far. Now, interestingly enough, the ball washing team, people like Benny Johnson, tweeted, "Amazing, it's incredible, oh, I'm so excited. All the Donald Trump endorsements, these are all the people that were endorsed by Donald Trump, and they won in a Republican primary." So wait, you're telling me that the president of the United States endorsing you in a primary for his own party carries weight? Shocking. What's crazy is when it doesn't carry weight. Like, let's say you were a congressional incumbent and it didn't work out for you, or you were in a gubernatorial race and it didn't work out for you. That actually says more. It says a lot more than finding out that Anna Paulina Luna, who formerly danced at a strip club or was a cocktail waitress at a strip club based on conflicting information, who ran unopposed in her district and was endorsed by Donald Trump, and no one ran against her, and then she was elected in the primary against no one. Winning against no one because the president endorsed you seems like kind of a waste. And yes, there's a whole bunch of people that are doing this kind of crowing. Benny Johnson is one, Graham Allen is another. There's an entire sort of like MAGA infrastructure of people who are professional ball washers with their mouths. I'm actually saying that literally. They use their mouth holes to metaphorically wash the balls of the current president of the United States. So here's some takeaways. After bruising primary, candidates on both sides try to unite their parties. The primary system is actually always really gross to me. It was gross in my district in Texas 31. We had that retarded chick from Colombia that was running. Do you remember that? She was the one that would like shoot effigies of Muslims, and she's a unmarried former collegiate athlete that came to the United States, and her brother's like a scammer in New Jersey, and she tried to run in Missouri, and then she tried to run here, whatever her name was, and that didn't work out. And we ended up getting John Carter, who's my current congressman, who will be my next congressman, because he's 82,000 years old and is a functional human dinosaur with the skin of a Tyrannosaurus, just because that's the case, doesn't mean that the primary was going to change anything. That's, by the way, when I realized that I'm not going to waste an hour waiting in line to vote again. Why? Why would I do that? Why would I spend time voting for the best candidate when the machine rumbles on and chooses the people they like? Now, the front page of today's thumbnail and this front, face of this story that you're seeing on ABC News is Corey Mills. I actually have a better picture of Corey Mills. I think that's a better picture of Corey Mills, and also a girl that he used to date that he allegedly beat up, who just had a baby with an unknown father after having a sexual relationship with Corey Mills, and then having the beating go away because the DC Metro PD are totally not corrupt. And wait, they are corrupt. And the National Guard has been having to do their job since Donald Trump got in, and they haven't had a real plan to fix that. Anyway, there's that pretty young Iranian-American lady. She's an influencer type. She looks cute when she's pregnant. I think pregnant women can be absolutely beautiful. She is one of them. She's young. She's doing the thing you're supposed to do. Except she's supposed to have a husband. And hopefully the baby daddy is not this weird dude who's walking on the cell phone, who got CIA arms deals and other stuff like that, which is what it looks like. Corey Mills had some very illogical first arms deals and spent a bunch of time doing strange things in the Middle East. Apparently, he's been voted out. So we'll just leave this on the screen as I read some of the stories. Several high-profile primary races Tuesday tested how much Donald Trump's endorsement can do for scandal-marred candidates, showed the impact of the Republicans' mid-decade redistricting, and highlighting the continued battle between established Democrat candidates and progressive challengers. So that is the entirety of the thing. Donald Trump's endorsement cannot lift Corey Mills over his opponent. He was beat by a former TV news anchor and an NFL sideline reporter, Ryan Elijah. He's been, quote unquote, embattled and scandal ridden. I think it'd be fair to say that Corey Mills is a deeply disgusting scumbag. And if you guys want any more on that, you can follow Jill Savage, formerly of The Blaze, who also left The Blaze about the time that Steve Baker left The Blaze and Matt Peterson left The Blaze and all the people that were doing the investigative journalism at The Blaze. This was after Glenn Beck glazed the ever-loving hell out of Corey Mills. And by the way, a lot of other people did too, including people who are currently on OAN that paid to have radio shows so they could have people like Mills on so they could get close to these scumbags. Apparently he's out. And nothing makes me happier than seeing gross people not continue. But this, to me, is the Republican version of Eric Swalwell. He's no longer valuable. He's no longer an asset to the team. That doesn't mean that there was some big change. It doesn't even mean that the election was real. To me, it just means that the machine has decided, yeah, we're not into you. No longer useful. In the same way that a Valentina Gomez, who was running in mine, she wasn't part of the machine. It's way easier to have a John Carter. We already know what his levers are. He's been around for 20 plus years. Mills is currently facing a Health Ethics Committee investigation, and a judge has issued a restraining order against him after he was accused by his former girlfriend of threatening to distribute sexually illicit videos of her. He was doing revenge porn, allegedly. He's denied these allegations. ABC News reported the embattled congressman was also under investigation by the Department of Justice about his finances, which should be the case. But as we found out because of Steve Baker's coverage, it sounds like there was a potentially off-the-books investigation into the accusers of Corey Mills rather than Corey Mills himself for stolen valor, for all kinds of financial improprieties, for potentially moving things illegally. And I think that the odds are is that he probably had the sanction of the United States government, or at least the intelligence agencies doing the stuff he was doing. So he's no longer useful as a congressman. So he's out. He's too high profile. He got too hot at some point in time. Corey Mills is also buddies with Kash Patel. No big deal. So you can imagine how dangerous a situation he's in from the Justice Department. The answer, I would guess, is probably not very much at all. Mills' law suggests that Republicans do have limits when it comes to how long they can stand behind a candidate carrying too much baggage. That's actually not true. I don't think it says anything of the type, because there are plenty of scumbags. He just has too much publicity about his scumbaggery. For some reason, I feel like we actually have. I could pull a video of Corey Mills talking about how he's got a young child. That was always pretty weird. What do you think? More Corey Mills. He mentioned something on a Florida radio show the other day. Oh, yeah. He says he's got a newborn. Just in case you guys are wondering if the woman who's on the screen is, in fact, raising Corey Mills' child. There's no other indication that he has a spouse with a newborn child. So let me see what this actually plays.
All right, we have just enough time for one more question.
Yeah, Congressman, again, we had two of our women that are Supreme Court justices today up in Congress. They were looking to buy them protection. Do you think that's a good idea?
I do. Look, at the end of the day, I will tell you that someone who's had multiple death threats against them, talking to other members like Congressman Fine and a few others who get some pretty nasty death threats, looking at what happened with Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and others who've had death threats, I think that we need to make sure that our Supreme Court justices are protected. But I also think that we shouldn't be prioritizing. I'm going to say something that might be a little bit controversial for some, but maybe not. But look, if we're going to spend...
I'm going to say something that might be controversial for some, but maybe not. That might be the most political thing that you could do. A congressman saying that I might be saying something that you don't agree with, but maybe not, but maybe you do agree with it, but maybe you don't agree with it. And so let me say it, but now that I've covered both sides of it, there's no way you're going to feel like I didn't cover whatever it is you feel.
All this money to protect our justices and these members of Congress and the Senate, and I get it, we get a high level of death threats. Why aren't we also making sure that we allocate money to protect our schools and our children?
Oh my God.
That's the greatest asset and most value ever. And as a father of an 11-year-old, I have a newborn.
You have a newborn?
Let me just tell you, it is...
What did he say?
That's the greatest asset and most value ever. And as a father of an 11-year-old, I have a newborn. Let me just tell you, it is one of the things that's near and dear to my heart. But I do understand their fears, their concerns.
Yeah, roger that. And by the way, that echo was on their end, not on my end. Not everybody has the ability to suss out whatever the echo is on their podcast. So be it. Yeah. Who's this newborn that he's got? Anyway, apparently you can have a newborn, you can be kind of a weird scumbag dude, and it doesn't actually have that much baggage because when you are close to the same people or if you're out there standing with, there's a great photograph of Donald Trump going into that same court hearing where you had Natalie Harp fighting to get in the back of the SUV. You know who else was there? These guys. Byron Donalds, who had a good night. He secured his primary nomination. There were a lot of people that thought maybe that James Fishback would somehow be able to pull it out. I think Fishback finished like third place the last time I looked. He had maybe 10% of the vote. We can look at the final numbers if you like. But Fishback didn't seem like a great option either. Like, why is it that we just keep getting scumbags? Oh, because that's what the party wants. The party puts in people that don't act the way that you might. They're not ethical. They're not decent human beings necessarily. They're useful. So the party doesn't want its traditional base. It doesn't want people that are having children in wedlock and are actually trying to be conservative. You're not wanted. There's a big tent. It's just not for you. Are you traditional? Are you interested in going to church? Do you value things like faith and family and freedom and fitness and firearms and stuff like that? Yeah, that's not for you. Does the GOP prioritize handling your constitutional liberties? Not much better than the previous. Not much better than the other side, to be fair. to the point where I've got 2 stories today of the gun owners of America, and they are, again, fighting in court, and they are getting rulings in favor of, and they are basically bullying this current administration, which could have done this with no prompting whatsoever. These are just executive memos being released by the Department of Justice saying that you can carry a firearm under certain circumstances in federal buildings like the U.S. Postal Service, which, by the way, the Federal Postal Service, it's not really even a regular federal building. They're like a weird public-private co-op. So when we think about this stuff, just for whatever it's worth, I'm going to go back to the thing that we were talking about a second ago, which was the weird Google AI model. I would suggest to you that I'm alone with a Christian and I'm alone with a white person actually has an awful lot to do. Do you feel unsafe? This could just as easily be something not just written by ChatGPT or Google Gemini, some woke program garbage. This could just as easily be written by the Republican Party. Because the Republican Party seems pretty interested in restricting firearms, in cozying up to political establishments like the NRA instead of the new stuff that's actually working. And they like feminism. Tell me I'm wrong. Feel free to put it in a comment below. Let me know that the Republican Party of 2026, the so-called conservative or right-wing in American politics, has rejected modern feminism, has embraced traditional family values in some meaningful way, as they have Donald Trump as their leader. And they put guys like Byron Donalds out there. Just let me know. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to be proven wrong. Please cite evidence. All right, Byron Donalds unsurprisingly secured his party's gubernatorial nomination. Or if I got another picture of him somewhere. I feel like I do. There he is. Hooray! There's a hooray picture. He got Donald Trump's endorsement, received immense support among Republicans and Trump endorsements. I watched people that I sort of like say he's great. I watch people that I don't like say he's great. I watch people that I like say that he's terrible. I don't live in Florida, and I don't really believe in elections at this point, so I don't know that I really care. I can point out what happened without telling you that I'm emotionally involved in it. I had some lady there. She was like, if you don't think elections are real, then why do you talk about them? It's like, well, because they obviously put people out there into the public space. This is the narrative. Here we go. He's a pro-Israel guy. We know that. He's pro-data center. We know that. He doesn't seem like he's particularly interested in traditional American values like liberty or freedom or small government. So I can say that pretty definitively. And he doesn't seem like he's anywhere near as decent as, like, I don't know, the guys like Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis seems like he was probably as good as people could be in a national profile space. I don't think he was perfect on COVID, but I think he said a lot of the right things. I also think that he's not a primetime, Donald Trump ready for all the TV and all the sort of whatever scrutiny that you'd have in national. He's a national figure, but the stuff he says is kind of lackluster. Kind of stuff like this, where he's like, yeah, we're just going to try to do the right thing and we should not have H-1B visas. Well, this is a little late in the game to be figuring that out. That seems like that should have been figured out quite a long time ago. Didn't people run on a America First agenda? So you can say, oh, you're doing the right thing, in the same way that my Governor Hot Wheels is doing that. And he's like, oh, well, we're not going to have Muslim foot washing stations. It's like, hey, a-hole, wheel over there to Houston and check out the foot washing stations. They've already got this stuff. They already exist. So a little bit too little too late. I'll still give praise to people who say the right thing when they're supposed to. And this does seem like the right thing, not hiring H-1B visas in the state. I found out in the state of Texas, there are only 2,700 H-1B visas that are at the state level being determined. It's a negligible amount. Meanwhile, there are millions of Indian people that have come in under H-1 or under the chain migration behind it. They're the little weird old ladies that are wandering around. I think you call it a sari, wearing a sari on my streets all over the place. I've actually got a video of how deeply weird it is. I live in a place near Austin in Williamson County. Historically, just for your awareness, Travis County is the uber liberal. Like, if you're a cop and you shoot a bad guy while they're doing something, then they're going to prosecute you. If you're a cop and like some teenager strips down naked and runs at you and he's black and you shoot him for trying to attack you with a knife, and you're a black cop, like, you'll lose your job, your career, your whole life will get ruined. Like, in Travis County, that's not where I am. I'm north of that. And then historically, for all of time, there were pretty right-wing people because Williamson County, which is north of Travis, is very rural. Many of you will have the same experience where you live, right? There's an urban area and there's an urban county, and you know when you cross that line, there's some batshit crazy left-wing loony sheriff's department that will do all kinds of terrible stuff. And then you get into the part where you live and you're like, it's safer here. I breathe a sigh of relief when I cross the county line. When it says you're entering Williamson County, you're good to go. Because that's where America happens. That's where people get pulled over for drag racing on your street, and they'll actually prosecute them, and they'll take them into custody, and they'll confiscate their car for being assholes in front of your house. Like the stuff that you kind of want, like, you know, aggressive policing for social order. So those differences exist in every state. There's rural counties, primarily rural counties, that tend to be pretty sensible, and then there's the opposite. There's the urban, and they are nuts, oftentimes, like just straight crazy. And I live in the not crazy part, in theory, one would think. And we did, I pulled this the other day, and I didn't know when I was going to play it, but I'll play it right now for you. It's a video of the police department put this out in my town, which has the tiniest crime rate ever. And they chose to put an Indian with a very Indian name as the officer that they followed around doing ticketing. And for some reason, they edited out the fact that there should have been nothing but Teslas with brand new stickers on the side saying, new driver, student driver, dipshit from overseas who doesn't know how to obey American traffic laws. I don't know what a stop sign is. That's what, when I see student driver on a Tesla in Williamson County, Texas, what I know is that equals Indian person who doesn't know what Texas driving laws, what American driving laws look like. And for some reason, they decided to show you like their virtue. Leander, Texas. It's a town of like 70,000 people. It's a suburb of Austin. Austin crazy, suburbs not crazy, generally speaking. Just saying, this is what they put out.
You're going 50 in a 30-mile-per-hour school zone. Did you see that it was school zone? Yes. Okay, so we still decided to not go the speed limit in the school zone.
I was going
Okay, that guy was an Indian guy he was talking to in a Tesla.
Today we're going to be running school zone enforcement.
His name is Officer Har.
Got a lot of problems.
Har, H-A-A-R. 2 A's. Officer Har.
Here, so let's slow some people down today. The reason we stopped today is for your speed, okay?
Yeah,
we're going 49 miles per hour in a 30 mile per hour zone.
Sorry?
49 and a 30.
Yeah, I know.
That person's speeding. That person's speeding. Okay.
I just picked her up and she's telling me about first day of school.
Yeah, that's way above the speed limit, right?
Yeah.
We've got to slow down, all right?
I honestly, and this goes on like this, it's not particularly interesting other than the fact that I just found it incredible. The guy you see on the screen right here is the representative they picked for Texas, America, in a decidedly white flight type suburb. It's people who were like, oh, I like the idea of being near Austin, Texas, which has historically been a pretty cool place to have. They have really neat parks. They've got some good services. There's some art. There's some food. There's some music. There's people waiting in line for barbecue where it's really hot. And then apparently they decided, let's put out our best foot forward, considering that 90% of the homeowners in the HOA that I'm part of, and I didn't know that when I moved in here, they're Indian. And every Saturday night, there's like weirdo Indian Hindu things. Now listen, being alone with a Hindu person is a totally normal experience that you don't have to worry about. If you happen to find yourself alone with a Christian, though, consider calling 911 so Officer Har can show up and solve your problems. Anyway, the H-1B visa crisis is funny to me because it's election season and it doesn't seem like Ron DeSantis is running. He's saying the right stuff. But like, where was this when he first got in? Why didn't they already decide this?
I am directing today the Florida Board of Governors to pull the plug on the use of these H-1B visas in our universities. We can do it with our residents in Florida or with Americans. And if we can't do it, then, man, we need to really look deeply about what is going on with this situation.
Okay. I mean, that sounds reasonable. That sounds like a thing. It's like, yeah, we should look deeply into what's going on. What's going on is that America has been outsourcing our jobs. We've been giving away our economy, and that's not making America great again. And then what did you get in Florida? You got, here's a couple more pieces from it. You still got another round of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, aka Ramen Noodle Head. You guys know who I'm talking about. You can close your eyes and picture the ramen noodle hair that she has. She's going to get another shot. She won her primary in a historically black district. I don't know why black is capitalized. If you're in that historically black congressional district, it's totally normal to be alone with black people there. Don't be worried. If you see a white person or a Jewish person, then either call 911 or it's normal. Yeah. Isn't it funny? You can find that there's like racial games that we can play when the AI is going to do this stuff. This guy, Moskowitz, he won his primary. And Randy Fine, who is a noted fat piece of shit. I dislike Randy Fine so much, I cannot fathom what kind of person would be like, you know what? That dude's like 200 pounds overweight. He's a sloppy, gross, nasty, slimy dude who says lying politician stuff. I think he would be the best representative for me. I mean, he did get Donald Trump's endorsement, so you've got that going for you. But there was some video the other day of him like going through somebody's mail on their porch. And he didn't wear his yarmulke, which he wears everywhere, except when he's actually out trying to canvass and trying to be like a regular dude. He's pretending to not be that. But then when he goes out there and gets on the news media, he wants to make sure he's got his yarmulke prominently on his head. I did have somebody tell me that they were saying, you know, the nice thing about Randy Fine is that he'll be my representative until he dies in his chair when he's 86 years old. So at least we know what we've got. And the answer is I don't know if you've seen people that are 250 pounds overweight, but their life expectancy is not 86. I've worked on fitter corpses in their 50s, people who didn't survive with that body type. So anyway, we'll see. Kind of gross. Let's see what else we got here. Let's go to the other side of the aisle, shall we? For just a minute. The Democratic Socialists of America has been the boogeyman the Republicans have been pointing out. And so some fun things happen when you look into this. There's a reason why I don't fixate on this. Maybe that reason is it feels a little bit too close to home and my father-in-law, which I have brought up before. My father-in-law is an anti-rich person. Nothing for nothing. I think he had a mid seven figures haul from selling his home that he bought for $200,000 back in the 80s when my wife was little. And this guy, who is the president? He's the top Democratic Socialist of America leader in New York. Just had a fun story written about him at the New York Post. This is why I think these people are actually they're easily forgettable. The minute this stuff comes out, it's like, this is not a serious person. Why would you take this person seriously? They're not ever going to be the people that betray me because I know what they are. He's got a sign in front of him that says tax the rich. His name is Gustavo Gordillo. Gustavo Gordillo. He's an anti-rich DSA leader. He lives it up in a posh $1.5 million New York City pad paid for by millionaire parents. That headline alone is fantastic. The picture you're seeing on the screen also is exactly what I would expect of somebody from the DSA. Someone doing shitty renovations on a very expensive property and bringing down the property values of those around there because he didn't actually buy it. So we'll read the story real quickly. This is from the New York Post, so it's kind of like sassy pseudo-journalism. The millionaire parents of a whiny top DSA leader have set up their socialist son in a $1.5 million Brooklyn home where he lives, railing against the rich and property ownership, the Post has learned. Again, I don't think these people are intellectually honest in any meaningful way, so it's just kind of like I said, this is very similar to arguments I had with my father-in-law, who I like as a person. He's a really decent grandfather. He's a nice man, too, and he raised a wonderful daughter. But the stuff that he used to argue with me about in politics was absurd. It was like, let's just talk about stuff that doesn't matter. Because you're not capable of making a coherent argument about gun control, for example, where you believe that the cops are bad, but the only people that should have guns are cops. How do you wake up in the morning and not have the biggest migraine ever? And that's not the first time I've mentioned that here. Same story. He was an anti-rich type person. The rich do this. The politically collected do this. The people who have all the money do this. Meanwhile, he actually argued against inheritances, that you shouldn't even be able to inherit anything. And he also used to say things like property ownership was a problem. So how did he make a living? He was a real estate agent. And he made his living renting out his house, very much like this house you see here, which is kind of like a brownstone looking thing. I don't know if they call this a brownstone or if it's something slightly different, but it's a row house if you're in the DC area. It's a brownstone if you live in New York. It's a townhouse if you live in anywhere else other than the Northeast corridor of the United States. $1.5 million is actually pretty cheap in that area. He's in Bed-Stuy. Just for whatever it's worth. That's in Brooklyn. A nice one goes for several $1 million. A nice fixer-upper that's in good shape but needs to be fixed up and modernized goes for several million, $3, $4, $5 million. Just so your mind's in the right spot. But this guy, Gustavo Gordillo, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, is a 38-year-old young man. What's the difference between 38-year-old men living in a house paid for by their parents, railing about the rich, and living with their brother, not being able to make it on their own, and 34-year-old women who are catering to old men and foregoing traditional values by just like following around some old dude and typing up his tweets? What is the difference between these types of people? To be fair, I mean, are those people not on the same side of the political aisle? Like one's, excited about money. The other one is railing about money while living in a nice place. They're both not embracing traditional values. You think either of those people are like running off to church? They're raising kids? No, it just turns out like there's not that much difference. He's peddling an anti-capitalist lefty agenda while enjoying life in a nearly 2,000 square foot row home. They call it a row home there too, I guess. Gentrified, tree-lined block in Bed-Stuy. Honestly, only in New York City would a 2,000 square foot or nearly 2,000 square foot home be something to be bragging about. That's small by normal American standards. I don't know if you can find very many sub 2,000 square foot houses in the little town that I live in, because families live here. That's what even Indian families live here. They need to cram all their friends and family members in. Local renter Faith Smith, 36, who called the socialist Yale graduate a hypocrite, said, "I wish my family could afford to buy me $1 million home." Yeah, agreed. It's nice. Here's the unedited picture right there. The front doorstep is full of like renovations. So maybe they're doing renovations right now. Maybe they're not just like living in squalor like that. But anyhow, this is why I don't think they're that serious. I just don't. Because it's not like they're living by the values. Whenever this guy decides, whenever his parents decide to sell that place, are they going to try to pay the maximum amount in property taxes? Are they going to hope to write the biggest check possible to the city of New York? Or are they going to try to fight it a little bit? Are they going to try to angle down? Do they try to put in variances to keep their property taxes down? Or do they just say, we think this is worth $1.5 million and we should pay taxes on $1.5 million. We're never going to argue it. Or is it locked in at some sort of low rate and they're paying taxes on? We should look this up. In fact, since I can see enough of what it is, I'm going to actually look it up. And for tomorrow, I will tell you what property taxes they pay on this thing. I bet you they're not paying on $1.5 million. Bet you they're not. In any case, the richness of someone standing in front of a sign that says tax the rich. I don't see a huge difference between this guy and the people that run around in Donald Trump's organs that are doing the ball washing. I just don't. Which disappoints me. It feels like the game is rigged and we're just not part of it. Here's some other things I didn't know about this guy. So this is a guy on Twitter whose name is 500,000 followers. That's kind of a big account. This is Dr. Ma'aluf. Also bacon cheeseburger nationalist, I bet. It's been revealed that New York City DSA co-chair Gustavo Gordillo, I don't know why I like saying that name, but I do, owns a $1.5 million townhouse that his parents bought him. He's also the beneficiary of a trust fund that could possibly own more undisclosed properties. This is the elite socialist versus the street socialist that Steve Friend likes to talk about. He was born in Peru and raised in Miami, and now he lives in a 6-bedroom row house. Maybe that's why he has that stupid mustache. Have you seen this? He's got the pencil thin kind of thing. He looks real skinny. I don't know what he's trying to be here. I don't know. He doesn't look like he can bench enough to be impressive for anybody, so I'll just say that up front. I don't know what's better. Being a skinny weasel communist or being a fat yarmulke wearing congressman. You know what that reminds me of? Just to be fair, it reminds me of the same thing every single time. It reminds me of this.
We are doomed, and our leaders are insane.
Right? The people that we're putting out there, they just suck. You can't make this up. Is everyone in the DSA a fraud? Are they just rich kids who got bored and they have nothing better to do with their lives? That's historically what this always has been. Apparently, he claimed to be a union electrician. But that just is because his parents actually own an engineering company with multiple offices in the United States, and they hired him as such. What's the difference between that and being like a professionally useless person that just ball washes? It's like it's still just theater. It's just, you know, different actors, different audience. The play is slightly different. The script, it's written from a different idea, but it's the same result. We don't get anything out of it. This is Daniel Horowitz from Blaze saying the following. We'll do this and then we'll take a quick little breather. He says, yeah, we've got a major problem with the GOP. It basically is pretty clear. They don't want conservatives. We have a country with two left hands. He's stating something from the Cowboy State Daily, which was talking about Wyoming and talking about the fact that the Freedom Caucus ran their candidates in the primary and they had a near total massacre, that they were basically all wiped out in the primary stage. Because the Republican Party recognizes that if you're a traditional church-going, family values, faith, family, freedom, firearms, fitness type person, if that's what you are, then you're not part of their base. If you don't know about the Freedom Caucus, there's probably about 2 or 3 dozen Congress people that are in that space. They don't say who's all in there and who's signed up to be part of the Freedom Caucus. They do sort of like caucus behind the scenes and try to move votes, but they're an outgrowth of the Tea Party. So here's the argument that I want to make. This is the argument of not being able to vote your way out of it. We had a revolutionary moment with the Tea Party. We had Donald Trump in 2016 stepped out and said, I'm going to do the opposite of what everyone else does. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm not going to take a bunch of money. I don't need their money. I'm coming in to save the country. I'm going to disrupt the swamp. We're going to drain it. We're going to put all the best people in and so on. And what was the results? Here we are 10 years later. We're seeing the Tea Party failed. A lot of the people that were in the Tea Party or the big prominent voices that rode in on that wave, they turned out to be really just a bunch of neocons. They're interested in foreign entanglements. They want to support our greatest ally, Israel. They want to get us into wars. They want to spend money on this kind of garbage. It's exhausting. I mean, it's actually kind of exhausting to watch it. And then that gave birth to a new movement. They were like the Tea Party, throwing stuff in the harbor. That was the spirit, but it didn't really have the truth. The real freedom people are the Freedom Caucus. And so this is the no true Scotsman fallacy. This is that there is no such thing as conservative politics. It turns out there are actually conservative people. And I think that I would be one of them. I think many of you might be if you're listening as well. The problem is that you're not actually represented because there's no market for that in the party that you end up voting for. This is why I don't care to vote. You could do whatever you want. I'm not telling people not to vote. I'm not telling you to go do anything in special. All I'm saying is the enemy of this country was democracy. The founding fathers knew it when they set it up. It should be a small number of people who have a very keen sense of duty and nationalism and personal responsibility over those that they are employing, that they are looking over and looking after. And the people who used to run this country were not doing politics for a living. Politics was the outgrowth of what they were doing for a living, which was business. And now the business of America is politics, where the business of America used to be business. So we don't have a small government party at all. It doesn't exist. So we're the real rhinos. And if you embrace that, then it also gives you like the freedom to say, we can't just field the right candidates and get them. When you field the right candidates, you get the Donald Trump endorsed former cocktail waitress at a strip club, and you get Byron Donalds, who seems like more and more of the same. A guy who left Congress and he has a budding career in politics despite like what? What's he going to do? He's going to take over for DeSantis, who says the right things at the last moment sometimes and seems like he's okay. I think DeSantis was as good as anybody, which is not saying a whole lot. All right. I've got a look here at a little advertisement that we ran, and I think this will work. Let me make sure I've got it queued up here. This is for the folks at Cove Pure. I'm going to show you this because sometimes we do I do some stuff over on these other social media platforms, and we created this for them. I think it's somewhat entertaining. Also, if you've never seen the machine and you're interested in it, this is where you can find it. Again, link in the show description for Cove Pure. I'll kind of see how this runs.
As you can tell, I'm something of a gear guy. I've got all this equipment behind me, and just like whenever I put together a gun, I always do a function check. We're going to do a function check today on this Cove Pure unit. This is the receiver unit. We've got a full tub of water, red dye, number 40. It's my wife's favorite.
We're going to get really meta here and watch me do myself. That's a lot of dye, by the way.
Water. We're going to slide it in the slot. It sits very nicely, and it's easy to go down here. Now, it's not going to start churning until we put the magnetic top on, and then we're going to hear the magic start. It is going to begin the flush, and we should see clean, pure water end up here in the pitcher. It's going to take a little bit. Let's do a time lapse.
If you guys are listening at home, one of the things I always tout about these machines is how fast they filter water. Instead of having to wait hours for like a drip filter, this takes like 3 minutes and 3.5 minutes.
Okay, we're ready for the function check here. So it's done the filtering. We're going to show you what it looks like in the reservoir, and it is very, very red. Now, let's get the Cove Pure filter, and let's do 6 ounces. Pretty encouraging. You can see here, it's just water. It tastes like water. Our water normally tastes like it came out of a broccoli boiler. We have a lot of sulfur in, and when you go through the Cove Pure, it doesn't taste anything like that. This is the unit we use for our kids. Check out covepure.com/KYLE, covepure.com/Kyle, covepure.com/KYLE.
Save $250 when you buy now at covepure.com/KYLE.
It's true. I plugged that into the AI and I got that. If you guys want to scan the QR code, you can find the Cove Pure unit. It really is. You want to know how bad our faith in systems are right now? And some of you guys have said, yeah, I've seen this on Facebook. They're running some of these ads on Instagram and on Facebook. So that I was just showing you what it is. If you're not on those, you've never seen this. It's kind of funny. You can run it cold, you can run it hot, you can run it lukewarm like I did. We're in such a low trust moment that in that particular little advertisement that I did, I dip the paper towel in the rear reservoir and show you that it gets red. And then when it comes out of the cup, I dip it in the front and I show you that it's clear. And it's so clear that basically the paper towel is the same color as the paper towel when you put it in and when you pull it out. It's just wet. And there's almost no distinguishable difference without like some pretty high contrast on your phone or on your screen. Okay? But it clearly is wet. People are like, you're lying to us. You faked it. You didn't even dip it in. We're living in a moment where people are so concerned about being defrauded and faked that everyone keeps lying to them about everything, that they think that a guy who is advertising for something is going to do a test that didn't work and that I somehow didn't show you. I didn't show you that it was actually red dye that I just drank. It's really bad. It's really dumb. It's really sad. I don't know if this is true or not, so we'll validate this, but you guys are reporting this in our chat right now. Gordillo's parents paid $2,787.47. So about $2,800 a year in property taxes on the assessed value of that home, which is $87,000. I would bet that's true. We'll go look. We'll have to look at that. Yep. $2,800 on your $1.5 million house. Thanks for looking that up. WCZ22 is a new chatter. I haven't seen that before. But yeah, these things are not hard to find. And so I remember my father-in-law was paying very little in taxes as well. It's dumb to pay the government taxes unless you're a socialist and you believe that you should be paying a bunch of taxes, right? Because that's kind of what you're putting out there. Meanwhile, I kind of want to show you some of the other sort of nonsense that we deal with here. The reason why that low trust moment, that like, oh, are you defrauding me about the water filter that filters water and it takes the dye out? The reason why we do those dye tests is because we know it works. That's why you would use this as an advertisement. There's no reason for me to fake it. It's just like you could do it yourself. If you have a Cove Pure unit, don't use as much red dye as I did, by the way. It's awful. That stuff is nasty. And it just sits down there and then you got to filter it out of the machine. Kind of sucks. I did filter it all out finally. But that being said, this is why we don't think it's going to get any better. NIAID's David Morans. He was one of the top aides to Anthony Fauci. He just pled guilty to concealing records on coronavirus gain-of-function research. This is being reported by Peter McCullough, who became a prominent voice of these sort of anti-COVID shots and medical health that was scrutinizing sort of the establishment, if you will. Morans is likely to serve time behind bars. His guilty plea, and he says he will likely serve time behind bars. I don't know if he meant not likely. Anyway, his guilty plea and his punishment for this particular act of fraud strikes me as a distraction from the elephant in the room. Yes, of course. Anthony Fauci walking free. No COVID accountability. No actual movement on the things that we would hope would happen. Everybody voted for the guy that came in to disrupt. Everyone voted for 10 years, especially the people that are the 3-time Trump voters. I'm a 2-time Trump voter, not a 3. The first time I just didn't vote at all, and I gave money to Gary Johnson, and I liked the Libertarian candidate better because he was friends with my friend's dad. I was at the FBI Academy when Donald Trump won the first time. And I thought it was hilarious, by the way. I was behind it. And for a couple of years, it looked like he was doing some good things. And then, of course, he crapped out in the second half of his first term, and then he's crapped out in the second half of his first year of his second term. So people have lost faith because of stuff like this. It's like, we're going to get the low-level guy. We're going to get John Bolton, folks. We got John Bolton on the hook. Jim Comey, nowhere to be seen. Going to be fine. Absolutely going to be fine. Has no fear. Letitia James, she'll be fine. What about Brennan, Clapper, Obama, Clinton? Take your pick. Look at the people that are going to be fine. Where have you heard that they're looking into Chris Wray? Have you heard that at all? Is it because Chris Wray was hired by Donald Trump and it would tacitly admit that he hires bad people for FBI director, and so the guy that's in currently sucks also? Is it that? Because that's my guess. Is that the system just protects the people that are in the system? And when they're useful, then they get to stick around. And when they're not useful, then they get kicked out and they don't get to be, quote unquote, reelected, and they get Corey Mills treatment. You've abused it too much, so it's over. This is, what is this guy's name? This is Jan from Epoch Times, that they pronounce Epic. I want to find out, where's Jan from? What is this? Yannick something or other. I'll look him up. There he is. No, that's not him. All right, I'm going to play this little clip. This is him talking with John Solomon, another great liar of the machine. John Solomon, who was given all kinds of really interesting tips and leads by the Suspendables crew, me and the guys, saying, hey, here's some FBI malfeasance. You sound like you have some sourcing. Maybe you can get it. He had no sourcing while his people were not in. But now that he's got access to Kash Patel, now he's out there like telling you everything. They're going to redo the story of Hunter Biden's laptop. It's 2026 in August. And now we're going to point out to you that the FBI lied about Eric Swalwell and they got him out of trouble. That they lied about Hunter Biden and they knew he was a bad guy, but they didn't go after him. These are people that are not in any danger. So the low-level peons will get the punishment. They'll pat each other on the back. They'll bend over backwards saying what a great job we did. And the accountability that people actually voted for will be forgotten. And then there are two choices. You can go down the ball washing route where you listen to the ball washers and you think everything is so incredible. Look how amazing it is. Like, oh my God, Donald Trump, he's like destroying things. He's rebuilding the world. He's replumbing the entire, he's not stopping a leak. He's redone everything. He's fighting a war that no one thought. Like this sort of crazy crap. Or you can point out that it's fraudulent, that nothing will happen. And then you're the jerk. Here's John Solomon. He's my favorite.
The FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop. On that laptop, they had the evidence of what Burisma wanted from Joe Biden and his family. They had evidence of what Hunter Biden was getting paid. They even had evidence that Hunter Biden had admitted to his own lawyers, or his lawyers and him had talked about the fact that he had failed to pay American taxes on a large sum of money from Burisma. They had validation that what the confidential human sources were telling the FBI was true because Hunter Biden's own laptop showed it was true. And still, this team, this Round River team, went out to try to portray it as Russian disinformation. That isn't putting a finger on the scale of an American election. It's putting a whole body on the American election. And that means the intelligence community and the FBI, at least its counterintelligence division, were interfering in an American election by picking winners and losers.
Yeah, we know, dude. So what? So what happens next? So what do you do about it? Anything? Does it matter? I don't get it. You want to pick winners and losers? How about this picking winner loser? How about the loser that showed up for less than a year to clean up some of the ugliest, swampiest things, who spent literally years railing about the corruption inside this agency that he went to go work for, pointing out all the problems, then left in failure, and recasting himself as a winner. How about you go out and you pick some winners and losers, and the winner you pick is a 26-year-old. Let me remind you of what it was. I played you this the other day. This is 26-year-old Michael Alfonso, who seems like a nice enough kid, but he's 26, and he's not going to apologize for working hard for a few days. His father-in-law is Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary. They weren't people calling this out in a meaningful way, and nobody will call this out on the political right. They'll just cheer on, yay, it's our guy. This is the next Brandon Gill. He's running in an R+11 district, so a win at the primary level is a coronation at the general election. That's how these things tend to work. That's why Brandon Gill ran where he ran. He didn't run in like a contentious, like possibly Democrat zone. No, they ran in an area where he was going to be able to win. And he's the son-in-law of Dinesh D'Souza. For those of you that don't know, Brandon Gill, I like Brandon Gill. I think the stuff he says is great. I don't know that he's a useful or meaningful congressman, and probably isn't. He's a nice enough guy. His wife is sweet. His children are cute. He seems like he's interested in family, but he was selected. He was selected because he's Dinesh D'Souza's son-in-law, and he needed a job. He had some like mediocre media thing that wasn't doing anything. And if you want to make your own money, father-in-law has money from running the media empire and doing all these movies that he makes. So what is the son-in-law going to do? He's got to support Dinesh's daughter. What are we going to do? Let's get him into Congress. So they did. And the same story for Sean Duffy's son-in-law for his first married daughter, as far as I could tell. Here you go.
Because critics will say the reason that you seem to be a shoo-in for this race is because of the man next to you, Secretary Duffy, and also his relationship with the president and his endorsement. Michael, I'll start with your reaction to that, and then Secretary Duffy, I'll ask you the same.
Look, I'm not going to apologize for marrying my middle school sweetheart. I grew up in this district my whole life. I've been working full-time, almost full-time in the summer since I was 14 years old. And I will tell you what, in this race, I'm going to talk about the things that really matter to the voters. I'm the hardest working one. I put 60,000 miles on my car in 9 months. And I'm going to represent the people of the 7th the same way I have worked on the campaign trail, as the hardest working one in the race.
You're 26. You should be the hardest working person anywhere. Everywhere people look, they should see you be the hardest working guy. I used to work 80 hours a week when I was 26. And nobody cares. It doesn't matter at all. It's completely irrelevant. That's just the expectation. You're 26. You're a newly married guy. There are no vacations. Go build the nest for your wife so that you can have babies. You sound like a little boy. I'm not going to apologize for marrying my high school or middle school sweetheart. Dude, nobody asked you that. They said, what experience do you have? They said the reason that you're sitting there is because your father-in-law is successful. Is that how you want to be? Do you want to be the guy that just follows in somebody else's footsteps and gets stuff handed to you? That's what it looks like. And by the way, here's the victory tour, because he won his primary last night, obviously.
But good friend of the show who used to work here, Michael Alfonso, won his primary. So big congrats. We'll give you a real Barney hug. And like Fat Barney, sharing is caring. Good job. Michael won his primary for Congress. You know, Michael Alfonso, husband to Evita, had a show on the network before Michael ran. We're really proud of you. So remember, big people do big things. You did a big thing. Go rock and roll going forward. So make sure you get out and vote for him in November. Michael Alfonso, Wisconsin 7. You all know him. Big win for him last night. He worked really hard. So congratulations on that.
What? What is that? There's a whole industry of this people. They have zero skill set. They have no business. Look, I'm kind of this jerky purist. I think that people should be running for office between the ages of, mid 30s to like mid 50s. It's kind of the power range. If you were like, hey, who are your people that you would trust? Are there people that are 35, 38 years old that you think make great decisions and have a track record that's worth looking at? Yeah, there are. What about people in their 50s? For sure. What about early 60s? One term? By 65, I don't want you there. Not because I don't like you, not because I don't think that people who are older than me can't make great decisions. It's just like that your window is out. Our window for people should be in the same way that people were like, well, people are a lot younger and they had a lot more responsibility. Yeah, the power age for people who were dying at the age in their 40s when this country was founded was in their 20s and 30s. For sure. By the time they were 40, they were old people. And that was it. And some lived longer, of course, but a lot of people didn't. So let's consider, why are we putting a 26-year-old whose work experience is a really, really hard summer job? And why are we listening to these people who keep glazing? That's the term the kids use. I actually do like that term. They keep glazing people. They're talking up like it's just genius and you're too dumb to understand. Here's the problem. I think a lot of people in America, like, we're the minority, but we are a lot smarter than what is being sold to us. So that was slop. That was Daniel Bongino's slop, sold to a low IQ audience, unfortunately. There's plenty of people for it. He's Dan Bongino, professional ball washer, uses his mouth to wash Trump's balls. No question. He just did it because Donald Trump endorsed that kid. So obviously it's the best. Never mind the fact that his father-in-law is a cabinet member. Here's another guy. Loves the ball washing. Called out Corey Mills when it was appropriate. Stopped calling out Corey Mills when it became inappropriate for him, when he started getting the call like, hey, you're kind of like going after our guy. This our guy thing is the enemy. If you're a conservative and you have principles. And if you don't, then you're into teams. And your team has 34-year-old women who have no children, who have no family, who should be putting their energy into something. And instead, they're putting it into dying old men that are like occupying space and screwing the country out of a generational opportunity. Here's Glenn Beck. You guys have heard this before. I've got a follow-up to it as well.
He outmaneuvered our best thinkers at the Pentagon. Our best thinkers at the Pentagon said, this is the way we fight this. And when we do fight this, God forbid we ever have to fight it, oil will go to $150 to $350 a barrel. That collapses the economy. That's why all of these guys kick the can down the road. Because there's no way out. And the Pentagon knew it. It's going to. So all the advisors said, can't do it because it'll do this. Donald Trump says, well, that's not how I'm going to fight the war. I'm going to fight the war differently, and I'm going to keep the strait open. And they're like, Mr. President, you're not going to be able to. Well, really? Watch me. Because here's how we're going to do it. So they all get on board, and they're all like, okay. And he has kept the price between $110 and $70 a barrel. Today, I think it's an $83 or $88 a barrel, something like that, which is totally doable. We've had that kind of price before. At 120, it starts to get really dicey. I mean, it's expensive, but it's economy collapsing at 120 to 150 sustained. The economy collapses. So his advice, or his advisor said, don't go in because the economy collapsed because of the price of oil. He said, no, that's not a problem. Now, I believe that he thought this would end quicker. I think he really thought that there would be somebody that he could kill the top people at the very beginning, and the others would go like, I don't want to die, so I'm with him. But
well, I'm going to work against my own argument here. I thought that he, right? Okay, so Donald Trump's such a genius. He was able to do things that no one's ever thought they could do before. It's the most amazing thing in history. But also, like, he got it wrong. And so, anyway, we're going to get to that $150 barrel of oil. That's not me being a doomer. That's me just looking at it and saying we're going to run out of stuff. We can only subsidize with the strategic oil reserve so much. We're down to less than 50% of where we were at the peak, and the peak was only a couple years ago. We've been on a dramatic and steady decline. And although the end of the Biden administration and the beginning of the Trump administration was curving it back up, you guys have probably seen the graph. It's went back up, it's back down again. And we're bleeding ourselves out. So inevitably, those crazy prices will sink the economy, which is exactly what the people at the Pentagon predicted, and they were correct. And of course, they've been thinking about it for 47 years, if you believe that nonsense. Imagine making that argument, and then you keep making it. So one of two things is possible. Either Glenn Beck is a complete buffoon and a moron, and I don't think that's true. I think he's too wealthy. I think he has too much money for that to be the case. Or he's invested in the small number of jobs where you wash the balls of Donald Trump with your mouth hole by saying words that wash him, and that's very lucrative. And so that's what you get. So he says things at the beginning of the Iran conflict. It's incredible. He's done something no one's ever done before. Yeah, he's a dipshit. He did dumb things. Second version of it is you have to act like, guys, he's not just doing a leak repair. He's doing a full renovation of the home. This is the short-term pain, long-term game. Okay, well, if the short term is your entire term, then, then the next team gets their try, and then we get to go to do communism for a little while. We're gonna see that. That's what the narrative failure looks like. Anyway, I don't know what the market is this. I don't know how you end up saying these things and then not end up with like a mass Jonestown type event. Is that not like the most likely thing? A bunch of people are going to either metaphorically or literally have to end their lives at the end of this stuff because of the insanity they're doing. Here we go.
I think, though, that the entire political system is disconnected on all sides.
Yeah.
The only ones that really have a clue, but they're lying to you, is the socialists.
Yeah.
The socialists are talking about where people are living right now. Mm-hmm. You don't know what's going on. It seems completely unfair. The system is broken. I can't afford my bills.
Yeah.
And no one in the Democrats or the Republicans are actually addressing that.
Wow, what an incredible thing. I wonder if we could turn this to make it positive about how awesome Donald Trump is.
Donald Trump is, he fixed the leak. He fixed the pipe in 2016, but he fixed it with tape because he had to fix it quickly. Okay. He thought he had another term. He's not fixing the pipe with tape this time. He's replumbing the entire house.
Oh my God, it's a full renovation. It's incredible. Can you imagine how amazing he must be? The first time he fixed the leak and it was awesome. But then he realized he had to do all the plumbing.
How full of shit do you have to be to go and do this? And Michael Knowles just nodding along with him. Blah, 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 blah. Oh yeah, this is incredible. Yeah. The socialists know what's going on. The whole system is not serving us. Like somehow Donald Trump is different than the system when he's been in the system for a decade.
And so it's like, it's that moment in the Money Pit. Yeah. Where they buy this house and it's great. The house is Donald Trump. We're the ones who bought this house and it's great. It's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. I can't believe we got it. It's finally our dream house. And then it's a money pit and nothing is being fixed. And you're spending all this time. You're like, they're never going to fix it. Why aren't they fixing it? And They get a divorce or they're headed for divorce right when it's finished. Okay. That's the situation we're in. Everybody's giving up because they're like, what is he doing? I don't have a house. They keep making promises, but I don't have. He's fixing it. He's fixing the house, but he's doing all the things you don't want to do that will make your life miserable for a while.
Right.
Okay?
What? Again, the audience for that. I guess they probably have a lot of experience. They're divorced and penniless, and they're just going to wait for their savior. This is cult behavior. That's cultish. I don't like saying cult. And the reason I don't like saying it is because people tune out. Because the people that are part of a cult, they immediately are like, oh, well, I'm not in a cult. I had roommates that were in a cult, and I was like, you're in a cult. You guys bury effing triangles made out of copper in the woods. Freaking, you're in a cult. That's what a cult does. You're sitting around staring at a candle trying to astral project your spirit into other places. And then you're making up bullshit about how you went and saw yourself in another room and some other nonsense. And like, you're out of your effing minds. You're out of your effing minds. You're super nice people. You're lovable, polite, kind-hearted, decent human beings. And you're in an effing cult. And you can't see it. So when you say it, they tune out. They're like, well, you're not talking about me. Like, you're talking about people in the cult. What about the Democrat? What about the socialists? What about all those people that are trying to sell this? It's like, you're selling the same bullshit. I just heard Glenn Beck say Donald Trump 1.0 was a guy slapping tape, like some kind of infomercial, and fixing a pipe. But now he's going to root out all the corruption. Are you freaking serious? I know he's not serious because he's not that dumb. He'd have to be the dumbest person. He'd have to be so out of touch with reality. And I don't think Glenn Beck actually is that out of touch with reality, even though he lives in an alternative universe to you and me. Guys, he's fixing the entire house and all the plumbing. This is the AP from yesterday. The appeals court says Trump appointed United States attorney in Nevada can't legally serve in the role. This is Sigil Chattah. Sigil Chattah. You see her? It's an interesting picture of her because she looks like a regular person. She's like a hobbit. I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'8". This woman is a midget compared to my wife. My wife is just at 5 feet tall. She's probably 4'9", 4'8". She's totally tiny. and she's very wide. She's really kind of heavy set. She's a sweet lady, but she's just this awkward little weird person. And she came running up to me at multiple events that I did, including one I did with Dinesh D'Souza in Las Vegas. My dad probably met her briefly. She ran up and she's like, oh my God, hi. I'm Kash Patel's friend. That was the first thing that she wanted to tell me. I'm friends with Kash Patel. It's like, all right. I don't know Kash that well. I've met him exactly 3 times in my whole life. But that's cool. What can I do, you lady? She's like, yeah, I'm like a big activist. She's part of the Republican Party in Nevada. She's also born in Israel, for whatever that's worth, and she was raised there until she was a teenager. She's this tiny little hobbit Israeli dual citizen that became the United States attorney in Nevada because she's friends with Donald Trump. And the appeals court, the Ninth Circuit, was like, yeah, you have been improperly appointed. So if you can't put someone permanent in, then they can't go. This is the same thing that happened to Alina Habba, by the way. The appeals court has ruled that Sigal Chadha, classic bacon cheeseburger. You can go see her her Instagram, which is kind of funny. It's a bunch of stuff about Israel. It's a bunch of stuff about Kash Patel, and it's a bunch of stuff about the Nevada GOP. I suppose those are all related. The decision Monday, it was 2 days ago, by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, marked another setback for the Trump administration. Guys, he's fixing the whole house as he F's it up by not actually getting people picked to be the United States attorneys. We're now 19 months in. Is that right? 20 months into this second term rather. We're 20 months in. We're almost halfway. We were just almost to the midterms. And he can't even get United States Attorney's Office appointees approved. Handpicked U.S. attorneys beyond 120-day limit set by federal law. It's not like it was like, oh, it was just arbitrary. We had no idea. It's like, yeah, you have 120 days. So they reappointed her, and then she got removed by the court. She's continued in the office under the title of the first assistant United States attorney because a lower court judge said that she was disqualified from being the acting United States attorney in Nevada. Also, let's just leave alone the thing, dual citizenship. By the way, if you find yourself alone with a Jewish person, it's totally okay. Okay. If you find yourself alone with a Christian person, you might want to call 911. Okay. Glenn Beck said he's rebuilding the house, guys. Earlier this year, the White House selected George Kalesis as a replacement, but he still has to go through the Senate's nomination process. He's a Las Vegas native. He's been practicing law in the Silver State since 1981, which means he was in his 20s when I was born, which means he's in his late 60s, which makes him a boomer. So that's the right guy to be political appointee. If we could just get more boomers into office, we could just get some more boomers in these politically appointed spots, but we can't because we can't get the Senate to actually confirm anybody because Donald Trump is in charge of the party, but the party is actually being run by not Donald Trump. And so that's why we don't have the Save America Act. And that's why our voting is not real. That's why our elections are fake, but he's rebuilding the house, guys. So like, it's all going to work out right after we get a divorce. Let's continue the Glenn Beck analogy for just a second. I'll put the chat on the screen. Imagine this. Glenn Beck's analogy. He's a plumber. He's taken the house down to the studs. It's the money pit. And right when we have a national divorce, which, by the way, is usually called a civil war in country terms, right when the Civil War kicks off, Donald Trump will be successful. Holy crap. Did he, I mean, it sounded really good in his head, but here's the thing. I don't think Glenn Beck has ever done any remodeling, at least not by himself. He's probably never been the guy. One of my greatest remodeling victories was done when I was working in the FBI. My wife hated our master bathroom. We lived in this tiny little place, and it was in Northern Virginia. It was a row home, of all things. So we've got this bathroom, and the downstairs was okay, and I redid the downstairs. That was pretty easy. I like ripped up some carpet, and I put down some underlayment, and then I put a floor in that was bamboo, and I did the end boards around it. So I figured out how to do that. I was like, oh, okay, fine. And then I poured some concrete in the backyard, and I set a pad for my shed, and I poured some concrete, and I built some stairs, and the first time around they weren't good, and then I put some tile on them, they were better, and so that was good. And then I put in like this retaining wall. So I'm like working through the house. And the one thing I didn't ever do, I'm just not very good at plumbing, or I've never really got into plumbing. Also, you kind of need a bathroom in your master. So I was like, oh man, I just kept shoving it off. So finally I bit the bullet. And I'm like, I'm just going to tear apart this bathroom. Like, I'm just going to demo the crap out of it. And I went in there with an oscillating saw and I ripped up all the tile. And I took all the tile off the walls. They were 3-inch, like ugly, pink, disgusting tiles. And the toilet was nasty and it stunk like someone had been pissing on the floors through the tiles. The floor was like 1-inch tiles that were all crappy and all the grout was breaking. So I pulled all this stuff and I must have pulled 600 pounds worth of tile out of the bathroom into the backyard, and then had to like launder it because you couldn't throw away construction material. So I had to launder it into my trash can. Like every week I'd put in like 50 pounds of tiles and it took me months to get rid of all that crap. Anyway, so I'm doing that. I'm dumping it into like the pad. I'm dumping it into the ground of the pad where I'm pouring my concrete structure just for like filament because I just had tons of tile. Long and short. All right, so I demoed this thing and I ripped the studs down to the studs. I ripped out the wall behind it. I rip out this is like a 1981, 82 build house. So I ripped out the underfloor, whatever you call that, the MDF or whatever whatever it is. The floor was a disaster and it stunk of piss. Take out the toilet I threw away because it was garbage. Ugly, hideous. There was some Russian guy that owned the house before us and he pissed on the floor drunk every night, I think, something like that. So I tear the whole thing out. It's literally just studs and you can see the air conditioning that's in between the ceiling and the floor joists and stuff. And so I go through and I do the whole thing. And as I'm trying to get it back together, the subfloor is in and I've got some wall units now that are waterproof and I'm going to treat it with some waterproof stuff. And as I'm doing this, I get a phone call from work. Seraphin, we need you in wherever the hell we are going to go. We're doing it was probably like Pensacola. We're going to go down and do this Pensacola case for this terrorist case. Can you get down there tomorrow? I have no master bathroom. I have like an open floor with just exposed, ceiling underneath. I'm like, oh crap. I was like, can you give me 48 hours? Can I be a day late to the team when you guys get in there? I'll get the brief the second day. And they're like, yeah, everyone's going to get there early. They're going to check in. You come in. So I was under a rush job and I did the work. You know what I didn't have? A divorce. I didn't leave my wife without a bathroom. What's going to happen here is we've torn the thing apart allegedly, although I don't think we've actually dismantled any of this stuff. We're going to just end up with everybody fighting over the failure. And people are going to get divorced in both the right wing. The left is already opposition to us. And some people are going to just end up siding with the left. They're going to be like, well, the establishment and the machine keeps going. And some of us are just going to opt out. We're going to be like, nah, we're just going to move out. We're just not coming back. If you fail a reno bad enough, you end up putting your house on Zillow incomplete, unfinished. I've been looking at these houses. I've been seeing them. I was like, hey, honey, do you want to buy a house that has no trim boards and no floor work done and like half the bathrooms are incomplete and I'd have to go out there and build them? Like, I don't know. How much are they? I was like, oh, they're totally affordable. They're like $900,000. They're $900,000 for a house that's not complete. That's the Donald Trump legacy right now. This is what he's going to leave us with. He's going to leave us with a bunch of United States attorneys who are not United States attorneys. They're temporary and they are not getting approved. And as you put them in, they turn around and go, nope, not it. Your 120-day role is over and you can't serve as the first assistant United States attorney with no actual United States attorney. There's got to be an acting. Guess what happens next? The court in the Ninth Circuit gets to install somebody. That's what they already did. We're going to be trying to buy, for the most expensive amount of money possible, a broken system that's half finished. So the question is going to be this. Imagine you're the buyer of a house that has been destroyed through renovation. It's been renovated, but it's not completed. Are you going to keep the same contractors on that were over budget and over time? Or are you going to maybe go get your own contractors and be like, hey, by the way, you sucked at solving the problems when the last guy had. You actually ran the last owner out. You failed so badly he had to sell the house. That's the reno we're in. Meanwhile, you got the Glenn Beck glaze.
I think, though, that the entire political system is disconnected on all sides.
Yeah, shocker. Isn't it amazing that they have the same exact statement of we understand what the problem is, and then their answer to it is, and it's already been solved, and all you got to do is trust the plan. That's what your political right-wing media is selling you today. And that's how I know that we're the rhinos. We just are. They don't want us. They don't want the traditional base. They don't want people. That's not part of the big tent. If your kids are praying at night on their knees with you, you're not part of the team. You're a rhino. And just accept it. That's the best thing to do. And then not be a Republican. You could be like me if you want. I'm not a Republican. Republicans do this.
But a good friend of the show who used to work here, Michael Alfonso, won his primary. So big congrats.
Yeah, you could be part of the machine. It rumbles on with or without you. You don't have to be part of it, though. Nobody said you do. You could be serious. A serious person recognizes when nothing you do is going to change the system, at least not as it is. Hence, whenever they go, well, what's your solution? My solution is not pretending like fake things are not fake. My solution would be not telling my spouse that we're buying a house that hasn't been built and highlighting how great it's going to be and how little work we're going to have to do. I'd be like, it's basically, we're buying a construction site. All right. And if anybody is running for office and they're trying to tell you that the system works fine, we just need to get the right people in, which I get these arguments with people that I generally sort of like. Nonstop. What do they tell us? Well, if we just got the right people into office, there's no evidence of that. We had the Tea Party. We have the Freedom Caucus. We've ousted speakers of the House that sucked. We are basically continuing to move into the money pit, and we've been sold the deal that like we've got the skill set to handle this thing, and by the time of the 4 years, they're over budget. They've spent more money than you even had, and they're going to make you sell the house, and they're going to try to tell you like it's a good thing. Maybe you could sell it for more than it was before because you've done so much work. You're going to lose your ass and all the equity you put in. That's where we're at. It's really sad. By the way, I'm just going to do receipts just lest anybody think that I am not telling the truth here. This is Sigal Chatia. They don't put her height on here, but they should. Israeli-born American attorney, politician, serving as the interim United States attorney for the District of Nevada since 2025. Obviously, the story was just about her. She was previously known for her legal efforts for churches during the COVID-19 pandemic. Her tenure has been extended through personnel changes that have been ruled illegal. She was born in April of 1975 in Israel, and she came to the United States with her parents at the age of 14. She settled in New York, but then she returned to Israel before relocating to Nevada. So there you have it. I don't know. Like I said, nice enough lady. I don't like the idea that people are dual citizens. I don't think you should be serving in our government if you're a dual citizen. And that's not just about Israel. That's where anywhere else. I don't like the idea of Canadian dual citizenship. I think you should give it up. What the hell are you? Why are you in our government if you're not part of this country as both feet in? The dual citizen game is bizarre. And it does seem to be kind of going in one direction. Here's another reason that I'm really frustrated. And the frustration comes from, why do we not have victories that come directly from the administration as they keep telling us what they are? It's like we bought the house, we brought on the contractor just stopped showing up, and so we went and found some day laborers that finished some of the projects that we thought we could get done, and we're paying for them out of pocket. The contractor comes back in and is like, yeah, look what a great job my guys did. You're like, asshole, I just paid for this out of my pocket from day laborers that I found at Home Depot. And we did a total check, and they're totally legal, and nothing we did was wrong. GOA lawsuit aims to strike down a 1927 law banning handgun shipments via USPS. This is from July of 25. If you guys want to know who's getting the work done, the work is getting done by private organizations that are being funded through private donations, even after you pay taxes. This is the scam of government. This is the scam of electing people you thought were going to do the job for you. Didn't we come in under the idea that we're paying taxes, we're paying for people to come in and solve the problem, with the idea being that we were going to work our way away from that? Didn't Donald Trump run on some idea that he was going to do tariffs? He was going to charge other countries, so it would be a consumption tax. And so then at the end of all this, we would have far less government, broadly speaking. The executive has massive, massive authority to do things. This goes back to 1946. I brought this up yesterday on X, and it's worth remembering. In 1946, the Congress stopped being functional. And what they did is they passed the Administrative Procedures Act, which is defended by everybody on the left and the right, as far as I can tell. I don't know anybody out there saying the Administrative Procedures Act is one of the roots of evil. If you guys want to go back to the halfway measures You know, the 1950, what is it, November 12th, 1955, when the clock tower gets struck by lightning, that pivotal moment in history when you watch the Back to the Future series, right? They all go back to 1955. That's when things went awry. That's when Biff, took the girl and didn't do the thing, and McFly didn't, win the day. But if he did win the day, then his family was successful. Okay, go back to 1946. It's one of those jump-off points in history. Truman continued the policy of destroying America that FDR did, moving it towards socialism, democracy, whatever you want to call the thing. They're the same thing, by the way. Democracy, the tyranny of the majority. We used to talk about this all the time under the Biden administration. The craziest thing is that if the Republicans are in power, if they're the ones who are running the show, then why are they not dismantling the things that are really the problem? And the problem is that executive agencies have massive, massive authorities. If only there was one on the, there it is. Number 9 in the 20 promises to make America great again, and the weaponization of government against the American people. One of the ways you do that is you actually turn it back over to the elected representatives and make them do their effing jobs instead of hearings and bullshit. In 1946, the Congress signed into law by Truman, passed the Administrative Procedures Act, which allowed the executive agencies to write rules with the force of law. So the executive gets to do the job of making laws inside the purview of their executive agencies. In other words, government gets to decide how government is going to be implemented, and then it is signed off on and approved by government. You'll notice that you don't hear the people involved in that. That's because the people, which is going to be the House, supposed to be the people, the Senate, which used to be the people, but is now the people again, rather, but used to be the states. It was supposed to be the people and the states, the two sort of stakeholders, were able to say, these are what the laws are, and the president would either sign them or not. 1946 gave the executive tons of authority. You can write rules. The Biden administration used them crazily. They've been struck down on some of these things in the courts, by the way, by GOA, by the people that are fighting against this. This frame and receiver rule was just overturned. The frame and receiver rule was essentially like mandating what is and what is not a gun, and who can make them, and where they can be sold, and what kind of businesses can be, in effect, selling things that are not actually guns under law, but they define them to be guns because they're the government. The government gets to make their own laws to favor their own actions. That's what weaponization looks like. So this is one of those stories. The Gun Owners Foundation, Gun Owners of America, fighting in the Western District of Pennsylvania, trying to overturn 18 U.S.C. 1715. Which says that you can't send handguns through the mail. If anybody's ever tried to ship a firearm, it's a pain in the ass. Major pain in the ass. You got to go to a third-party private shipper, like UPS is usually the ones people use, and then you got to actually physically check it in, and then they freak the F out because they've never done it before at the place that you decide to go do it, and the people that you're asking to ship the gun have never figured out how to do it, and at some point in time, you're afraid you're going to end up losing the thing. You end up paying a private business like an FFL to ship it to another FFL, and you got to go pick it up at the FFL. You got to pay on both sides, plus the shipping. It's an absolute nightmare. It's like, it's an inanimate object that's like locked in a box. The freaking hell are you talking about? This is something they're still fighting. Why was this not overturned right away? And the answer is because you voted for something, and then we're still going to have to earn our way to it. This is another thing that just got done because there are active court cases. This is the federal government finally getting knocked into the shape where they're going to properly recognize what 18 U.S.C. 930A means, which is that you couldn't previously carry a pistol, a handgun, concealed into a post office. Now, here's the deal. All of these laws are unconstitutional as far as I can tell. So I don't pay attention to unconstitutional laws. I can't read them. They're offensive to my eyes and my mind. I actually am unable to process unconstitutional laws. So they just don't compute to me. So I just do whatever the hell makes sense to me. I was at church the other day and the guy at my church goes, I said, hey, do we have some kind of a church security team, other than me, personally looking into it? Do we have any sort of thing? Do we know how to lock these doors? Do we have to do this stuff? And he was like, no. I go, well, look, the guy that sits next to me over here is a detective. He's on the SWAT team for Austin PD. I'm a former federal agent. I carry a gun everywhere. I know he's armed. We're both capable of solving problems. But if there's other guys out there, it'd be nice to be able to meet with them. And he's like, you're not supposed to carry a gun in church. It's like, first of all, no, I don't know that. Because even if that was true, I still would carry a gun. But the funny thing is I live in Texas, and Texas treats churches like every other private property. Why are we fighting against, quote unquote, our own people? It happens all the time. It turns out we're fighting against our own people in this case too. So you finally got a memorandum. This is an opinion, which will be reversed immediately by the next attorney general under the other side. Congress has passed at least 9 different statutes that bar or have been interpreted to bar otherwise law-abiding citizens from carrying weapons in designated locations. It's also empowered the Department of Homeland Security as well as individual federal agencies to regulate who may enter the buildings that they own and operate. Many of these agencies have opted to bar weapons from their facilities or grounds either explicitly by regulation or implicitly by closing their facilities to the public. You've asked whether those restrictions codified in 18 U.S.C. 930 Alpha are best read to impose criminal penalties on otherwise law-abiding citizens who carry weapons into a post office for the purpose of self-defense. We significant constitutional concerns if the Congress had created such a blanket ban on the lawful carrying of constitutionally protected firearms into a building frequented by the public since the founding. We ultimately do not need to reach that issue here. Congress has exempted lawful carrying of firearms and other dangerous weapons incident to hunting or other lawful purposes. The funny thing is we had to wait until right now to find out that they are going to recognize what lawful purposes are. It's always been built into the law, lawful purposes. It's always been there. But you're just now, 20 months in, having the Trump administration saying, yeah, you can carry a weapon and we're not going to criminally prosecute you for carrying a gun in a post office, which, by the way, is a real pain in the ass if you were actually trying to obey the laws. At some point, I stopped learning how to read those laws. At some point, you would have driven up to a post office and you'd be like, oh, this is a post office. This is different than every other building that I go into to do commerce, even though it's not really a governmental building. It's kind of a governmental building. It has a semi-governmental status. I have to take my weapon off, leave it in the glove box. Then I got to go into the freaking office. Then I got to do my business, where people have historically, in my lifetime, done a thing called going postal, where some angry employee decided to shoot up all of his friends, and I'm supposed to be unarmed in there. And then I'm going to go back after I leave, and then I'm going to put my weapon back on, and I'm going to expose it again for a second time, when in fact Congress has already carved out hunting or lawful purposes. What if you're just hunting bargains? People in Florida are starting to experience this right now as well. They're allowed to carry a weapon, open carry, as long as they're fishing. And so they're carrying their fishing rods and they're on the way to the fishing location and they're getting stopped by cops left and right. Tell me how tyranny didn't win when this is the case. Why are we not seeing massive gains of rollbacks? It's like, hey, we don't think the ATF is even a lawful organization. Where's the Trump administration saying we're going to just assign all ATF agents to just help out? They're federal agents. They've been duly sworn in. They've been trained. We're going to have them go and do illegal alien deportation. We don't need any ATF operations being done. Where's that? Because that's what winning would look like. That's what a remodel of the house would look like. They'd be like, well, I had these pipes here and they were not good, so I used them in a place that actually is good. Oh, we went in and we tore open the walls and we found out there's a bunch of old wires that don't do anything. They're connected to nothing. So we pulled them out. And we're either going to repurpose them or we're going to recycle them. That would be a real remodel in the Glenn Beck term of things. That's not what they're doing. They're doing these half measures and they're trying to tell you that they're successful. And there's a lot of money in telling people they're successful. Let me go to the last little bit here that I'm going to finish off. This is from the Bulwark, left-wing source. If you ask Christian nationalists to choose between Christianity and nationalism, guess what they pick? The funny thing is they pick the wrong people to ask these questions. By the way, there is a right answer to this. If you have to choose between Christianity and nationalism, a Christian will tell you, what is it? God, family, country, in that order? Pretty straightforward. What's first? God. So you choose Christianity, religion. And by the way, if you're a Christian and you're living according to Christian principles, then nationalism is not really a choice that you have to worry about making because it's fine. It's fine in this country. As long as you don't live in the nonsense where you believe that if you're around a white person or a Christian, you have to call 911, you're fine. There's the picture they have. American flag in one hand, rosary in the other. Which do you choose? Conservatism versus democracy is where they went, though. I'm going to show you this on the screen just so you know where I'm reading from. It's funny to me because this is what they're quoting a David Frum piece in 2018. He says, David Frum saw the world more clearly than I. He wrote in 2018, quote, if conservatives become convinced they cannot win democratically, they will not abandon conservatism. They will reject democracy. The funniest thing is there's really nothing democratic about conservatism, is there? How many people have you heard say, to include people like Daniel Bongino, this is a constitutional republic, we are not a democracy? How many people have said that? And why would they say that? Because democracy has nothing to do with what America was designed to do. And as close as we've gotten to more democratic type means, the more we've democratized America, the more we've gotten away from what America was about. By the way, that's the same in the church. If people want to vote on what feels good, well, I just sort of understand why women get abortions. Like, I can empathize with that. I understand why someone might kill 3 of their children because they had postpartum depression and psychosis. It's like, what the F are you talking about? I used to see Democrat stickers on people's cars outside of churches. And you're like, the Democrat Party stands for all this crazy stuff. How on earth can you rectify that with your faith? You can't. You actually can't. So you have made a choice. You've just chosen wrong. This is the Nancy Pelosi wing of the Democrat Party that claims that they're Catholics. They're not Catholics. My brother got mad at me for it. He's like, who are you to say what they're Catholics? I'm like, it's really easy. Catholics are people who live by what Catholics say happen. Catholics have a doctrine. There's an entire enormous thick catechism, which includes both scripture and tradition. That's what it means to be Catholic. Sorry, non-negotiable. And if you go talk to actual Catholics, they say that. And then you meet the people that are doing what these polls are about. So in 2018, he said, if conservatives become convinced they cannot win democratically, and conservative, by the way, he means Christians as well, they won't abandon conservatism, which is a principle. They will reject democracy, which is the right answer. That's actually the most sane thing that you could say, because democracy is the, in fact, enemy. That was in January of 2018, less than a year into Donald Trump's presidency. His prediction has become one of the key insights to our understanding of this moment. Almost immediately, I thought of Donald Trump when he attacked the Pope. This is from when is this story from? Because this is not a fresh story. This is a story from April. Remember, he had a bit about the Pope. The funny thing is that if you're Catholic, you're probably not all that thrilled about the Pope either. There's a lot of things that have gone really sideways. In fact, there's an argument to be made that the church, capital C, and that can be all Christian denominations, have accepted and tolerated a bunch of things that are not Christian, in the same way that the United States has gotten away from its fundamental mission of what the United States is. If we've done democracy, then we've failed. It's no longer the United States of America the way it was set up to be. It's that house where they thought they were going to do an addition to it. And what they ended up doing is like opening up big holes in the roof. So now it doesn't do the fundamental job of what the house was meant to do. Keep the rain off your back and keep the cold air or the warm air out. We've gotten away from the fundamental mission. And for some reason, you've got some bizarre nonsense where people think that the president of the United States, who's not supposed to have the power to do this anyway, is going to save you with no evidence that he's been doing that. In fact, the evidence is pretty obvious that things are continuing on about the same. About half the people think it's about the same as the last guy. That's not an overwhelming thing. And a quarter of people think it's worse. So this article, I'm going to highlight this piece right here just for you guys, just because it's interesting to me. The first thing that struck me about the Catholic Trump voters was that every single one of them thought that Trump was doing a good to great job. That is not accurate. So again, I wrote to these guys today and I said, hey, I know you guys just recovered this, and they just retweeted it out today. I said, you just asked the wrong Catholic people. Just so we're on the same page here. I don't know who you're asking, but normal Catholic people might think something like this. We're doomed. The leaders are insane, and the electorate is retarded. And I may not be the only person who can talk about this, but I do think that I am a reasonable person to have this discussion, because I've got this sitting on my stand right next to me. I'll show you in 1 second here. Size properly. Boop. There we go. This, that's not supposed to be there, is it? Go away. There it goes. Yeah, this is sitting right next to me. My friends over at Catholic Vote. You guys remember how this podcast got started? There it is. Catholic Vote. Hero of the Year in 2023. What was that all about? That was about losing your job for principles. Like knowing that the right thing was going to cost you money. During that time, when we first launched this podcast, there was an awful lot of discussion about white martyrdom. In theory, if Donald Trump was the guy that people claim that he is, then he would be sacrificing something and not profiting to the tune of billions. Not taking his age, like whatever he is, like 19-year-old, 20-year-old son and turning him into one of the richest people in the history of the world. That wouldn't be the case. It would cost him something. Does it seem like it's costing him anything? No, it does not. The first thing that struck me about Catholic Trump voters was every one of them thought Trump was doing a good job. Like I said, I don't think that's the case. Among white evangelicals, Trump's job approval is holding strong. He holds high rates of approval amongst his voters, but amongst independents, black, Hispanics, Donald Trump's approval numbers have cratered. I think amongst people who are paying attention and are willing to say, I'm not going to stand in that cult. And by the way, walking away from it, it looks very cult-like. If your instinct is we have to cheer on our guys, Daniel Bongino style, Michael Knowles style, people at the Daily Wire style, Mark Levin style, Glenn Beck style, if that's your move, then you're just a different kind of person than I am. I don't mind pointing out when quote unquote our side is screwing us. And that's why we did yesterday's kind of scattered, it felt a little scattered yesterday, but the fundamental premise is it's very clear to me. MAGA 2026 is full of people who have been fooled, and it is far easier to fool them than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. I had some lady go, post your evidence. I was like, it's not an evidence thing. That's just what Mark Twain said. It's just a Mark Twain quote that we've all lived through and seen. Nobody wants to admit that they've been fooled. It sucks. It sucks to admit that you got taken in. I had to do that real early on with Kash Patel. I had to say, we've been defrauded. We had a guy who pitched one thing and he did something else. And I wish that he hadn't. I wish that he was not someone putting his friends in for the United States attorney in the place where he's going to live. I wish he was not the guy that just lied to us about what he was about. I wish he didn't go out there and fluff up the agency that I used to work at, which is a real legitimate threat to American liberty. I wish he hadn't done that. And I wish that the president wasn't behind him. I wish Donald Trump looked at government as an enemy the way that conservatives are meant to look at government as an enemy. It doesn't mean everybody who's in government is your enemy. What it means is that the institutions themselves are antithetical to American liberty because they represent the opposite of American liberty, which is stay the hell out of my business and let me raise my family and let me do what I think is right if it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical. Get out of the damn way. That's your job. Allow me to speak. And don't come after me for fake hate speech laws or modifiers because you think that you don't like the way it sounds. Don't arrest people in San Antonio, Texas because they have a freaking flyer or a sandwich board that says abortion is murder. Don't arrest those people. Don't kick them out of public spaces when they are speaking, when we have a constitutional guaranteed right to speak. And meanwhile, in Texas, America, a red state that's supposedly deep red, you have abolitionists. You have people that have been on this program that faced arrest the other day because they were walking around and they were saying what they believe is true and it's not hurting anybody in a place that is funded by the people, by the public. And you got state troopers under Greg Abbott out there arresting them. So don't tell me that there are people who don't get it. A lot of us get it. We're just not the minority. We're not the majority. The minority of people are on the right-hand side. If you'll notice on this little cartoon, what are they all doing? The men in the back are covering their ears saying, go away, you're not a real Republican. We reject the traditional old types. We got the MAGA hat on. We're going to yell talking points with a bullhorn. You're not wanted. We don't listen to you. Notice who those people are and who's left behind. The minority, which is a small number of people that want to have babies, marry a man and a woman together, and like they actually mean it, think it means something. Like you're the minority. They just want you to actually pretend that you don't understand, that it's a team issue. Pretty gross. And it doesn't make me become a big fan of the Pope. But I think at the end of the day, when the Pope says, hey, this war is wrong, if you're not a completely crazy person, and if you're not completely divorced from the reality of the campaign season where the guy actually promised no new wars and said, I'm the president of peace, then you would agree with it too. But it leaves us at odds. So there you go. Now we're sitting here arguing against our own team, which is much more dangerous, it turns out, because they'll stab you in the back than the people who would stab you in the front. That's where I'm living. See if there's any other stories that I missed that I really wanted to hit. I don't think so. Oh, by the way, this is the last little bit. Speaking of war, live update. Iran says it has no interest in a ceasefire. War must end fully as Donald Trump downplays any hope for a deal as well. The head of Iran's armed forces on Wednesday renewed the country's warning to the Persian Gulf states not to assist the United States in their military operations, saying it would amount to joining the operation against the Islamic Republic. The United Arab Emirates said Wednesday it was suspending all trade and financial dealings with Iran after issuing a warning to residents that the first incoming missile threat was happening in the last weeks. Iran's foreign minister said Tuesday that Tehran will not accept the ceasefire offer with the United States. They'll only deal to a full end of the war, and President Trump said that there are no ongoing talks with Iran and no discussion scheduled almost 6 months into the war, which was launched jointly by the United States and Israel. If you want to hear any of the remixes and all of the compilations of Donald Trump saying we think the war is basically over, feel free to go listen to yesterday's show. There's a bunch of them. We are now at the point, 19th of August. So we had March, April, May, June, July, and now we're almost halfway, or we're over halfway in this 6 month. And yeah, we're not even talking ceasefire. We're not even interested. We're further apart than we were. Crazy. Here's what it is. All right, let me see if I have anything that's fun. I feel like I sometimes have some fun stuff. Did we do the woman running to get a date? I don't think we did. So there's this woman that I saw. This also represents kind of like one of the saddest things that I'll see. People who don't know what the purpose of dating is and don't know what it is they're looking for. There's an entire generation of people that have been lost in this process. I have friends that are in their 40s. They're my age, and they don't know who to marry, why to marry, what the purpose of marriage is. You can give Michael Alfonso, who just, married his high school sweetheart. Good for him. That's a throwback value. I actually appreciate that in a big way. Doesn't mean you should be a congressman, by the way, just because you figured out how to get married. But watching videos like this kind of remind me of how messed up the situation is. If you run down a guy and the guy's like, yeah, I'd be willing to go on a date with you. And this woman, by the way, is like not particularly impressive for looks. She's probably a nice lady. She runs down a dude who's jogging and says, would you go on a date with me? And he's like, yeah. And then she's like, oh, you're too old. We're going to have a ton of people. We're going to have an entire generation lost that I think lost because of feminism, because of the failure of values, because conservative values have been destroyed. And so tell me how the right is any different than the left when people on the right are talking about the same sort of things that the ones on the left are. And they're cheering on single ladies in their 30s. Anyway, the woman that's chasing Donald Trump might as well be this lady. You can imagine her not dating as well. Who's going to live up to Donald Trump? I've taken text message dictation for the president. How could you ever live up to that?
You while we run? Can I interview you while we? Oh my God! I'm sorry. Just really quickly, are you seeing anyone?
Am I seeing anyone? No, I'm not seeing anybody.
Okay. Are you trying to?
I'm open to it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm open to it too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done a lot of running. If I was single and someone ran and did this, it would be really weird. This guy is obviously taken back, but he seems like a super nice dude. This could have been like the most charming, sweet story. It turns out it ends up going to exactly what you think it'll do in feminism.
Are you saying you want to go on a date?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, follow me on Goldie Out of Pocket. I have to stop running, but you have it? Okay. Sorry. I'll give my Instagram actually.
Okay.
GOLDIE.
Yeah, you take it.
Anyway, it was really great to meet you. Thank you for stopping. How old are you?
34. How old are you?
It's too old for me. I'm sorry. It's too old. I'm sorry.
Did you feel like it was going to be good? The first red flag is she said you can connect me on Instagram. Anyway, I don't know if that's a palate cleanse or not, but yeah, you guys are like, the guy should have kept running. if 34 is the end. She's obviously in her mid-20s. You can tell there's a bigger age gap. Like, there's a smaller age gap there than between my parents. Sadness. Anyhow, do the best you can. Support the people around you that are doing actual conservative stuff. Don't be surprised if you can't vote your way out of it, but that doesn't mean that you have to be sad. You can also just do the things that you kept doing. You can be standing alone. It turns out it might cost you something, but not being on a team, it's kind of liberating, it turns out. And you get to keep your principles, which is fantastic. It's great. Nobody can take that from you as long as you hold on to them. Guys, thanks for watching the program. I hope you had some fun with me. It has been kind of a weird little Wednesday. That lady was weird. I wish she didn't do that. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. If you haven't joined us already, by the way, check out Kyle Seraphin show. No, what is it? KyleSeraphin.com will get you to our sponsors for all the different sponsors we have. But more importantly, it will allow you to sign up to be part of our call-in show. And you guys can tell me your stories about this stuff. Maybe you got a really awesome primary experience where the person that you hoped would win is the hope and change candidate that's going to really fix this country, and you got them in. Let me know. Let me know if that happened. Maybe I'm just living in a bubble here with my 82,000-year-old congressional representative winning my primary. So maybe you guys have like a great faith that it's about to get way better. If so, join us over at KyleSeraphin.com. Let me know in the comments there. You can join as a free member. If you want to be a paid member, you can as well. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow and for the call-in show tomorrow. God bless.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.